recruitment wrong previously. Now, Thomas Tuchel's being encouraged to consider Elliot Anderson for England this week.
I'm not necessarily saying he should start, but he should definitely be in Tuchel's thinking. He was outstanding in the summer. England's best player out at the under-21s with Livramento. The two of them were outstanding. Livramento's obviously in the squad as well.
talkSPORT's Henry Winter says Anderson can definitely play in a deeper midfield role alongside Declan Rice. England versus Andorra in World Cup qualifying is live on talkSPORT this Saturday. Wales play tomorrow. Around 1,000 members of the Red Wall are making the 3,000-mile journey to Kazakhstan. Scotland are away to Denmark on Friday night. Pat Cummins says he's doing everything he can to be fit for the first Ashes test, which he says would be devastating to miss. Australia's captain has a lower back injury, and with 12 weeks to go, he can't say if he'll be fit to start in Perth or not. And as Carlos Alcaraz warms up for his US Open semi-final by playing golf with Sergio Garcia, Novak Djokovic has a few days to get his 38-year-old body ready for a serious battle.
Going to do my very best with my team to be fit for that. There's going to be a lot of running involved, that's for sure. I mean, there's not going to be short points.
More on all this at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
Should officers be policing streets rather than tweets after the arrest of Father Ted creator Graham Linehan? And a UK supermarket is trialling in-store avocado scanners. More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Today it's raining tyres in our centres, including top-notch brands like Pirelli. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com and book today.
There's a warning for rain across southern England and South Wales for another 4 hours. Winds and heavy rain spreading northeast. Heavy and blustery showers following that. A windy day ahead.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy, and we are live on talkSPORT. So, after a 2-year investigation that came to nothing, are the FA desperately seeking some kind of win regarding Lucas Paqueta? Meantime, to agitate or not to agitate, would there be any point in players taking action post the window? Also today, is that concern to see VAR officials not following guidance? Why is Serie A providing such a British renaissance? How do high contact sports navigate safety issues? And has this really been a perception changing summer for Liverpool? It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy, and we are live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
Now, all I've heard throughout the summer from the man to my immediate left, Danny, Mr. Jordan, is, yes, I've just continued to work and I've really enjoyed it. Enjoyed coming in, enjoyed coming into the building. The show's very important and my presence...
you weren't here.
My constant presence is important. Simon, meet Danny Murphy, who has been double, treble, quadruple shifting this week.
Oh, right.
He was on deadline day the other night with myself and
Is this where we get
Alex
to hear
Cook
about
and
your
Ben
figures, is
Jacobs.
it?
Yes. The figures were through the roof. Murphy more than played his part. Ben Jacobs was superb, so too was Crook. Danny, good morning. Here you are back in another Wednesday. And we're live on talkSPORT.
Yeah, enjoyed Monday, Jim. It was good.
I did too, mate. I did
Yeah, a
too.
bit more.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not just you.
I never thought it was, but I actually think the spike is down to Danny. I think it's nothing to do with you and your little motley crew of Alex Cook and Ben Jacobs. I think it's Danny Murphy that spiked.
Although Jim did have an early night at 9 o'clock, he came off.
Did he?
We went on till 10.
Ah,
Yeah,
right.
well, this is true,
Okay.
Danny, and you're not wrong in highlighting that. Yeah, it was quite a night. The figures for talkSPORT were through the roof, and thanks to everybody. And thanks to everybody who watched as well as listened. And this morning is no different, because as well as listening to us, you can watch the show, watch talkSPORT on your TV, Samsung, LG, Fire TV, Apple TV, Chromecast, Android and Google TV, even Prime Video. Wherever you watch, we are there. I'm delighted to tell you. So this morning, let's kick off with this. A documentary aired on the BBC last night highlighted a financial scandal that hit a host of footballers during the 90s and early 2000s, one of those being our very own, our dear colleague Danny Murphy. Now, Danny is part of the V11 campaign group, 11 footballers who invested with Kingbridge Asset Management in the 90s and the 2000s. They have now gone public on their story. Kingsbridge Asset Management was founded in the same year as the Premier League was launched. That was 1992. Now, with the boom of the Premier League money, the financial advisors became trusted by many in the industry. Its website boasted a client list of more than 360 footballers. Up to 200 footballers are believed to have been affected, losing much of their own personal wealth. Some have lost their homes. Some have been made bankrupt. They're now being chased by HMRC for millions in tax, despite being told by City of London police they were, quotes, victims of crime. David McKee and Kevin McManaman, who ran Kingsbridge, say they deny any wrongdoing. At all times, they say Kingsbridge advised in good faith and set out the risks and opportunities both before and after any investment was agreed. So that's the background to it. Danny, this is a tough old topic for you, and you've been over it so many times now. And I found it a tough watch last night, knowing you as I do. But you spoke so well and you spoke so bravely in it. For anyone who's not watched the documentary, you know what's coming. Can you give us a brief idea around your story and the background to it?
Well, firstly, I'd just like to say thank you for all the calls, the positive messages. Couldn't get back to everyone. I'm a bit tired because I was up on the phone talking to people last night, which is why I look like a bag of spanners. But anyway, that's what the makeup helps with. Yeah, it is a difficult topic. About 15 years ago, a bit less, Brian Dean and Jason Wilcox, two great guys, opened a can of worms regarding our financial situation and the advisors. And the documentary is a little insight and a little window into that journey. And the criminality in it, the impact. I think the specialist spoke brilliantly. So many elements to it. It's quite daunting, actually, to try and get through it. But we'll try.
And why did you decide to go public with the documentary? What was the aim? What did you want to achieve, Dan?
I think first and foremost, justice. We're trying to get the case reopened. That would be massive for everyone, because I think when you're a victim of a crime or you feel like you've been hard done by, you want to see punishment. You want to see right. And we haven't seen that, which is unfortunate, because City of London Police did arrest them and have an investigation that failed, but we'll talk about that. The other thing is a bit more complicated in a change of law at HMRC, because as it stands right now, they're not really in a position where they can give any leniency or look at us differently to those who avoid tax deliberately. If you've invested in anything, a financial investment where you haven't had any financial gain, or there's been criminality, or you're a victim of fraud, you are treated the same and you are still pursued for the tax in the same way, which is ridiculous in my view, and has caused a huge impact on many people, not just the group involved in this documentary. The other thing is probably education and awareness. Making this more of a public topic helps, especially in terms of MPs, Parliament. We've been strong in that department for a couple of years now. Getting into football clubs to speak to young players is an aim for us, which we've already started the journey of. So they'd be the main three reasons why we did the documentary. Although, to be honest with you, Jim, I was a bit reluctant to do it at first. And there's only 11 of us, but there's over 200, 300 footballers and more from other financial advisors as well, but just specifically under Kingsbridge. Yeah. And so many of them didn't join the plight because of fear, maybe, shame, embarrassment. I think it's hard when you're in a position where you do well and then you mess it up, because you do feel like an idiot. And a lot of the lads, and I won't name them individually, but a lot of the lads who are bigger high-profile people than me decided they didn't want that fight and that journey, and that's understandable because people deal with stress in different ways. The mental health side of it is a tough one for people to expose stuff as intimate as this.
Yes.
So we ended up being this small group who I have to say wouldn't probably still be around each other if we hadn't had the specialists with us. Craig Short's wife, Carly, she's a lawyer, but she's been the leader of this. And I just got to give two guys a mention who have an investigative company who took on our case years ago, this jigsaw puzzle, and spent nearly 2 years working for free, Craig and Dave, former detectives themselves, and actually put this together for us. Incredible kindness from so many specialists, Simon Myerson, QC. So many people helped us get to where we are today.
Yeah. What year are we talking about, Danny? And can you reflect on what actually happened? Because these people from Kingsbridge, McKee and McManaman, were given access to training grounds, and they were trusted by young footballers, and they could get right at you to make their pitch.
Well, simple way of putting it is when you're a young footballer, early 20s, and there's nobody in most of the lads' families who've got any experience with money or investment, you tend to confide in the other players, senior boys at the club, like England internationals in my case, who were looked after by them. So I kind of felt safety in numbers. They looked after managers. They looked after Martin O'Neill, Howard Wilkinson. You know, this was a glossy brochure with already an established portfolio of people. How could you go wrong? And then what they do is cleverly worm their way into your life and become friends of the family, if you like. And then you stupidly, naively, if you like, put your trust in them. And don't get me wrong, you had those moments of reflection where you look back and think, what the hell was I doing? Why would I do that? But you have to get past it. But yeah, it was a free-for-all back then. The Premier League, as Simon knows, was booming. And the more wealth, the more sharks. As we progressed,
yeah,
and the wages got bigger, more people got involved in trying to guide you how to spend that money and save that money and use that money. So that was the start of it.
So ultimately, you put a lot of your own money into this and you lost a lot of your own money. Danny, what would you say to people listening who might think, well, this is just an example of young, naive footballers at the time making bad decisions or were given bad advice, but nothing more than that?
I understand it. I think if I was on the outside and I didn't know the detail, I'd probably have a lot less sympathy. But what this documentary does, it gives you detail. If you read enough about it and listen to the people who know more than I, the specialists, then you'll see it. It's obvious. It's there. The disappointment was that the City London Police didn't get it over the line, which, as I say, I'm really hopeful we're going to get the case reopened, which would be fantastic. And now, during COVID, we're looking at manpower, we're looking at money, we're looking at a complex fraud. There were reasons they didn't get it over the line. Some of it was poor mistakes on their part, I think, in terms of the different cases they went for, and there was so many to choose from. But it's kind of water under the bridge. There's a lot of momentum now in getting it reopened, which I think would be that would be a big win.
Yeah, because no charges were ever brought.
No, and we were devastated at the time.
And the City of London Police said in the past that you were victims of crime.
That was a big turning point for us, because until we got the confirmation that it seems contradictory, doesn't it, that they didn't get over the line but called us victims of crime officially. That was a big deal for us because it helped our fight then. Because all of a sudden you're not just got your violin out saying we've made some bad decisions, we were badly advised. That's not what it was. We were victims of crime, and the crime was fraud, and it was good fraud, like complex, very detailed, very clever, very manipulative, spread across Europe and the world, America, Spain, all these different things. So the fact that happened and they officially classed us as victims of crime actually gave us validation for the journey we've been on.
Yeah. Danny, the two individuals, and I must stress this, David McKee and Kevin McMenamin, who ran Kingsbridge, still say they deny any wrongdoing. The other side of this break will bring Simon into the conversation. It's myself, Simon Jordan, and Danny Murphy live on talkSPORT. Good morning, everybody. Wednesday morning, the 3rd of September. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy. We hope to go down under later on this morning to speak to Jaya Paqueta, top boxer who's being lined up for another fight. In the meantime, we're with Danny, who's got a fight of his own and has had this fight for a considerable period of time. A documentary aired on the BBC last night highlighted a financial scandal that hit a host of footballers during the 90s and early 2000s, and Danny was one of them. He's part of the V11 campaign group, 11 footballers who invested with Kingsbridge Asset Management in the 90s and 2000s, and they've now gone public with their story. Kingsbridge Asset Management was founded in the same year as the Premier League was launched in 1992. They got in and about some players. They were given access to footballers, young footballers. It was a young Danny Murphy at that time. At training grounds around the country, Kingsbridge's website boasted a client list of more than 360 footballers. Up to 200 footballers are believed to have been affected, losing much of their own personal wealth. Some lost their homes, some have been made bankrupt, and they're still being chased by HMRC for millions in tax. McKee and McMenamin, who ran Kingsbridge, say they deny any wrongdoing. So, Simon, it seems an appropriate time to bring you in. Do you think the industry of football, the football industry as a whole, had a responsibility and a duty of care in this case?
Why?
These were young footballers who didn't know any different, who'd made a lot of money because they were good at what they did.
They made a lot of money
and wanted to invest in something.
You can't make the industry responsible for footballers that have taken all the money out of the industry and then tell them what they can do with it. You can provide them with frameworks. You can provide them with guidance, which, by the way, they wouldn't have wanted. I set up wealth management schemes and the players don't want it because the people that they trust are their football agents and these sort of people.
Advisors, yeah.
They're advisors. So the problem is in football is the documentary, on a human level, I have a great deal of empathy. I'm incredibly fond of this man. I know Brian Dean relatively well, and I felt great sympathy for them. But there was also the flip side of it, the underlying influence, that somehow this is football's financial shame, or it's an obligation upon football to do something better. Well, there's a possible reason why players were signing documents at training grounds, probably because, with due respect, they couldn't be bothered to go and sit in the office of the advisors and make sure that they were across their investments, because it was timelines that they wanted to fit in around what they were doing. Now, if you look at the guidance that footballers should be given, the governance around financial investments are much more sophisticated now. The obligations upon financial advisors to make sure that people are conversant with the advice that they're taking has changed. The industry become more sophisticated. But the idea that young footballers, would listen to anybody else besides their peers and their agents,
or their brothers, dads,
or their brothers and dads, is for the birds. Because I've sat there watching it, looking at footballers, saying to them, be careful what you're doing. Sat in rooms with agents that they trust implicitly, knowing that these agents have sat in a room with me saying, if you give me another 50 grand, I'll get their salary down. The same agents that are selling them cars, that are selling them insurance policies, that are getting kickbacks. These are the ones that these guys trust. So whilst it's easy to land on the industry, and yes, perhaps you can have a better outlook and more disposition, but football club owners don't want their players to be put in difficult positions. They want them to have happy, balanced lives. And ironically, without turning this into an argument about football and football club owners, the person at the time that these guys least trust is the people that they should most trust, which are the guys that work for them that don't want anything from them.
Yeah.
They just want them to do their jobs and they're going to pay them.
One thing where football does, I think, have an obligation is that when this kind of got exposed and there was problems and there was trying to sift through it all to see what the hell was going on, is the PFA as a union to help us. They didn't. They turned their back. They actually advised people to just pay bills. You know, they couldn't help. They didn't want to help. And it kind of, I understand it.
And that's wrong.
That's wrong because you had all these footballers and problems. I mean, look, the Premier League, it boomed quickly.
Of course.
The football clubs couldn't manage that straight away and see who's coming. You know, there were people in the training ground, stuff like that. That's not even the issue.
Yeah.
The issue is once the so-called hit the fan and we went to the PFA, the help wasn't forthcoming at all. And that was a right smack in the face. We couldn't understand why. It was nothing. The reality was that when you look back on the PFA under Gordon Taylor and the people who worked with him back in those times, they were actually advised. I spoke to somebody last night, and there's more than one, by the way. There's a few. I know them. They were actually who went to the PFA originally about where to go for financial advice, because that's their job, to help guide you and keep you away from the. They were recommending players to Kingsbridge. Gordon Taylor knew the guys.
He knew
the guys.
He knew McMenamin.
The guys knew. The guys were friends with Howard Wilkinson at LMA.
Yeah.
You know, this was not a union that was.
I mean, if I'm Howard Wilkinson, I'm launching that documentary, I'd be very concerned about the representation. I mean, if I'm Brian Dean, I watched the show, listening to Brian, who I like very much, react to the fact that Howard Wilkinson was getting paid £2,000 a month from these people, and his reaction was, "Oh, I didn't get any money?" I think the greater reaction should be, "Why did Howard Wilkinson get any money?"
Well, I think it was pretty obvious.
You know, I think it's pretty obvious too.
Yeah.
And so for me, I felt great empathy for them, and I do feel that these young lads that are in a situation where they get exposed to great wealth is a challenge.
And the thing was, Simon, this was all new. This all came about in the same years the Premier League was launched in 1992.
Let's just
and there was a boom. There was a financial explosion.
With due respect, the legislation...
It's a bit later.
No, it's a bit later. That's not a correct characterisation. The legislation that came in part was in 1997-98 about film schemes. I know, because I looked at the film schemes.
Yeah, this ain't just about film schemes, but yeah.
No, I know, but financial guidance and advice. But the premise that some of this was based upon was about the investments in the film schemes that created tax losses that created investment vehicles.
Right.
Yeah. Now...
If these kids, I mean, we're not talking about 18, 19-year-old kids. We're talking about 21, 22, 23-year-old kids that can get mortgages and get financial instruments. I'm not entirely sure what you think the industry can do besides make itself available. As I say, without making this about my football club and my experiences, is not just relational to me, because I know a lot of football clubs did the same thing. I set up wealth management for my guys, and the reaction from the players is, "What are you getting out of it, Chairman?" Well, sorry. What I'm trying to do is make sure that you're protected and insulated from the challenges that are going to be out there for you, which is a bunch of people that want to make money from you. And then you look at the premise of their relationships. And one of the things I don't want to be unempathetic, but when you talk about trust, the nature of the relationship with these two guys, whatever they were, where they weren't, was based upon people making money from one another. If that's how you base trust and friendship, then with great respect, you have to look at who you're.
Well, you're being a tad judgmental on the fact that 20, 21, 22-year-old people like me had enough now, some maturity to be able to think the way you think we should think, or listen to better people, because I didn't have the option to meet. Maybe if you were the chairman at my club, and I would have listened to you. But, you know, and I think it's difficult, because he's right in some aspects. It doesn't matter as a young lad. If you decide you want your mate as your agent and your dad as your financial advisor, and you're going to put your money in wherever it is, you don't have to be at the training ground. It can be anywhere. You won't, if you don't want to listen.
Yeah.
At 21, because your ego's too big, and you won't. And I don't think that's fixable. And I think Simon's right in terms of where football clubs are at now is a much better place in terms of what is allowed and not allowed, and the advice you can
where
get.
the investment industry is.
Where the investment industry is.
Of course.
You know,
but Simon, the rule still applies today, though, as it did back then. Yep. When money is in play, trust is the hardest commodity to come by, isn't it?
But here's the thing, Jim, and I'm not. Again, I'm very conscious of the fact that these are young men, right? And I'm conscious of the fact they're in an industry where they are provided for, institutionalised, and not confronted with the real world. But when you talk about trust, we have to look at the mechanics of what that involves. The nature of the relationship between these men and these players was predicated upon a commercial decision that these boys wanted to make some more money or protect their futures. Protect their futures. And these guys were making money from them. Now, that's not a friendship. That's a commercial relationship. If you've turned it into a friendship, the basis of it was that there was benefit from you. So you have to look at the evaluation of trust, and you have to look at the judgment and people around them.
But even if that's correct, and even if you go down the line of saying we both understand even if you understood where you were at 21 going, this is more of a business thing than a friendship thing, it still doesn't condone criminal behaviour. Yeah. Fraudulent investments. It doesn't matter.
No, of course it doesn't.
You know, you're right. The industry is much better now, and there's been a lot of change, which is good. But the reality is, in any walk of life, Jim, irrelevant if you're a footballer. I mean, you've dealt with loads in your life. I know you've had stuff, but the reality is, if you become a victim of somebody doing something to you, whether it be financial crime, whether it be anything else we could talk about, you don't deserve to be then treated like a criminal, which is ultimately what's happened with the tax situation. Because if you look at the pension, the scam, when the pension thing happened, the scams, and people were getting their pensions stolen.
Yeah, Philip Green.
And then the tax was due on the pensions that they'd had stolen. So they were getting hit with that they couldn't pay. And then also, then they're getting hit with penalties and interest on the tax bill that they couldn't pay, that they've had the pension stolen.
Exactly.
That's not right. That's not fair.
Danny, my final question would be, can you envisage in your mind this morning, all these years on, can you envisage an end game?
Well, the end game is what I said. I mean, justice would be great, and the law change would be great as well, because it would benefit others, probably not benefit me so much now. I've given nearly everything. But the reality is, I'm quite resilient about it now. I mean, the documentary was made a couple of years ago. I had a lot of people asking me, "Oh, you're right, you're right." I think they watched telly and think it was made yet last week. I've come through a lot. I've actually learned a lot as well, going into places like HMRC. I spoke at House of Commons. I've been in at the Premier League with Scudamore, who was great, by the way, in the early days. He gave us a little bit of help. I've been in with the PFA. I've learned so much. I've been in rooms with lawyers trying to... I've grown because of it, even though it's been hell at times. And those experiences make you stronger. I feel like I've come through the worst of it, thank God. But some resolution would be nice, yeah, some justice. I think we all want that if you feel like you've been wrong.
You want the justice against the people that gave you the bad advice and the fraudulent advice.
Yes.
And that's the part I couldn't quite understand. The devil's in the detail. I mean, whether private prosecutions can be launched. You know, my overriding factor was, if there's criminality, then you have to take people to court and make them guilty. And I don't know whether the City of London police were the correct tool to do it through. But the devil is in so much in the detail.
Well, no charges, I stress, were ever brought. David McKee and Kevin McMenamin, who ran Kingsbridge, still say no wrongdoing by us. At all times, Kingsbridge say they advised in good faith and set out the risks and opportunities both before and after any investment was agreed. It is 10:30 this Wednesday morning.
be honest, we've all found ourselves raging at a referee's decision at some stage. Something like this?
That is an absolutely shocking decision.
They've got a case in that it was a bad decision.
It's such a poor decision.
Yeah, I think he's just made a bad decision in that instance.
But what does it take to get to the very top level of football refereeing? You can apply to become a referee through your local county FA from as soon as your 14th birthday. After spending several hours either in the classroom or on the pitch, they'll grant you Level 7 status, which allows you to officiate amateur games. Then you'll work your way through the ranks of amateur football, not reaching the National League until Level 2. It's a long process, bearing in mind every level from 7 upwards takes an average of a year. Also, there's no specific number of games you have to ref or hours you have to log before moving on up. You simply just have to be good enough. Once you're Level 2 and have enough experience at a National League level, you can apply to the EFL to become a Level 1 referee. Then it's on you to get enough experience to climb through the ranks and eventually become a Premier League referee. In total, there are 37,000 registered referees across England, but the PGMOL has only deemed 21 good enough to officiate games in the top flight. So if you want to make it to the top, there's less than a 1 in 1,000 chance of doing it, and it'll take you a decade to get there.
Many messages of support coming in for Danny. Danny, thank you very much indeed for opening the show in the way that you did. Danny with us all the way through until 1 o'clock. Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy live on talkSPORT. Just for you, Danny, we're going to go on to another topic that everybody loves. VAR.
That's
Why
an easy
not?
one.
Is that an easy one, Dan? Why not? And of course, I'm talking about the incident from the weekend when Fulham went to Chelsea, and we all know what happened. VAR took centre stage, particularly in this game. Fulham saw an opening goal against Chelsea ruled out after a smart turn from Muniz prompted a VAR intervention due to the player treading on Chalobah as he planted his foot. The VAR on the occasion, Michael Salisbury, advised referee Rob Jones go to the monitor, and he ruled out the goal for what he told the crowd was a careless challenge. Salisbury was subsequently dropped from the Liverpool-Arsenal game a day later after the PGMOL said it was a mistake to disallow Fulham's opening goal in this game. Fulham defender Anthony Robinson took to Instagram about it. He highlighted the incident. If they can check something for 5 minutes and still get it wrong, then what is the point? The standard of officiating has been shocking in the Premier League for too long now. This was the moment, this was the audio of the decision-making at the VAR screen between referee and VAR officials.
Showing you the broad angle first to show that Chalobah comes into the tackle, and then because of the space vacated afterwards, then there is space to the left.
Have you got a tight?
So now we're going to show you the tight. Yeah, now we're going to show you the tight to show the contact on the top of the foot.
Okay. So what I'm seeing is a stand on his foot that I didn't see in real time. So to be honest, I thought the challenge comes from Chalobah, but it's as he steps back onto his foot. So I'm comfortable that's going to be disallowing the goal for a free kick. The free kick is just round by the centre circle, is that right? Can you just zoom back out?
Yeah.
So announcement's going to be after review. Rodrigo Muniz makes a careless challenge on
Fulham number 9.
Chelsea 23. Fulham number 9 onto Chelsea 23's foot, and we're disallowing the goal.
Confirmed.
So, during play, the referee Rob Jones said the challenge on the halfway line is two people in the same space. It's not a foul. But on review, after being told, go to the screen, have a look at it, he seemingly changed his mind to the point he called it a careless challenge. And this is what gets up the backs of people like Anthony Robertson and other players. And then, of course, the PGMOL came up with their Mic'd Up show this week, and Howard Webb opens up about incidents such as this one. And this was Howard on that and other such incidents.
It wasn't controversial, it was wrong. We've established some principles in terms of how we officiate in the Premier League and how we use VAR. They sit around a high threshold for penalising contact. It aids the flow and rhythm and tempo of the game. We've also established a high bar for intervention with VAR. In other words, if situations are not clearly wrong and the referee has made a call on the field, that call will stand, or at least should stand. And that's the message that we give to all of our VARs, particularly when we come to taking away goals. In this situation, that guidance wasn't followed properly. There was a misjudgment by the officials involved in the situation about how that contact happened between Muniz and Chalobah. The officials got super focused on that contact without looking at the full context of how it happened. But we've done really well in the last 18 months or so to reduce our involvement. We've respected referee's call almost all of the time in the right way. And as a result of that, we've seen less interventions in the Premier League than any other major league in Europe. So we need to continue doing that. We understand the importance of these decisions. We understand that if we get it wrong like we did on this occasion, the impact is significant, and we're always striving to do better.
I'm sure he is. But the impact of getting it wrong, Howard, is significant. Danny, I mean, to solve this problem, do we just need stronger on-field referees trusting their own judgment?
Well, you need stronger VAR officials to let the refs ref. I mean, the ref made his decision and then for some reason got called to the screen and then panicked.
But he could have stuck by his decision.
Exactly.
He had a wonderful opportunity there to do so.
Exactly right.
It was really, really poor. And I've jumped on it on VAR so many times. It's not about getting rid of VAR now, because that's not going to happen. It's about making it the best. The best way of VAR being successful is having this high bar and sticking to it. And Howard's just talked about it. And I think he'll be fuming that it wasn't, because it's such an easy one. It's a really easy one that there was no challenge from the lad doing the skill. He was challenged.
Yes.
He didn't make a challenge. It's really simple. There's not a grey area with it. So how they got it... Do you know the irony is, and I pointed this out on the show at the weekend that I did, Match of the Day, they had a more complicated issue to deal with the second goal, because there was lots of little incidents leading up to the handball. There was 3. So they had to deal with 4 little incidents in that second goal decision. And they got them all right, quickly, effectively.
But you heard Howard Webb has gone on to say, here there is a lower amount of intervention than there is in other European leagues. Here, they're dealing with it a lot better. But when one comes along and it is as glaring, if you like, as this, then it's going to be in focus.
But no one's interested in empirical data. No one's interested in the reality of what it actually has achieved. They're only interested in, A, that they don't agree with it, B, that they've characterised it incorrectly in the first place, that VAR is going to get everything right. So ad infinitum now going forward, VAR means that there's going to be no errors on the field. That was nonsense, never has been the case. So the characterisation is incorrect. And C, there's just an intolerance of mistakes being made. Look, the idea that a referee, VAR intervened, and we don't like them, it was an unnecessary intervention. But it doesn't remove the responsibility from the referee on the field saying, no, I'm comfortable with my own decision.
Exactly.
I think one of the things that really disappoints people and aggravates people is that the time, every time a referee goes over to the screen, we're looking at what, 98, 99%, I would imagine, of decisions being changed because he's been called to the screen.
But that's good, though, isn't it? That's what VAR's there for. It's a safety net.
But that's not realistic percentage, because obviously the referee he's gone over to the screen. He should be allowed to go over to the screen and still go, I'm all right, won't move my decision.
But with respect, if the deeper dive then goes into the fact that 98% of the time he goes to the screen and then reverses his decision, is 98% of the time that the right thing to do? If it's not, then it becomes a conversation that we should be having.
No, but by logic, it shouldn't be heavily one way or the other.
Well, why?
Well, because so many...
the VAR was introduced then because there were errors being made, and the level of errors that were being made were unacceptable to those that listen to and watch football.
Yeah, to reduce the errors.
So we've now got VAR as a support structure. If your argument is right, and let's say for the purpose of this conversation, I agree to some extent. I don't know the exact percentage. They walk across to the monitor and they reverse a decision every single time. Isn't that the safety net that VAR was supposed to be produced for in the first place? It's about, in this instance, VAR probably had no business getting involved.
Why go over to the monitor?
Exactly.
Just tell them to change it.
Well, okay, because the reason why you go over to the monitor is because the referee still has the right to use his on-field experience.
They don't do it, do they? That's what
no, because and the question then has to be
why
is the fact that they made a decision the wrong time round, first time round, good enough? Second of all, is there going to the monitor and reversing their decision the right decision to do? Because does it matter how you get to the right decision?
No.
In this instance,
I agree with
they
that.
got to the wrong decision.
I see where you're going with it, Simon, but there's too much emphasis on VAR, isn't there? The emphasis should be more, and the responsibility should be placed more on the referee who's out there to do his job.
To be fair to Howard, that's what he's trying to do.
But they wouldn't leave him alone.
Who?
Everybody. When the officials were on the field making the decisions, everyone was screaming at the fact they needed support.
Yeah, but
They needed.
We moved on from that. Now you've got a situation where the referee on the pitch, Simon, can only be talked. Oh, now you can only talk to the captains.
You've moved on from it because the ideological position that everyone's entranced in. I understand your position, which is the big thing is about luck and spontaneity. That was your major thing that you disliked intensely from the outset.
Yeah,
right?
But that's done, isn't it?
That's done.
Yeah.
But the idea that VAR was brought in, and it really, Jim, I'm not going to cause an argument in an empty room, but people sat here and believed that VAR was going to get 100% right. Right? And the fact that it doesn't is now something you can whip it by. And the fact that Howard Webb can bring out stats, for those that dislike VAR, doesn't matter what stats he pulls out of his backside, they will say they're concocted, they will say they're confected, they will say they're not representative of the real facts, that the actual increase in decisions being made right, which is 10%, isn't good enough, doesn't warrant it. But there'll be the same people that are screaming when those 10% decisions that were gotten wrong, that have now been improved as a result of VAR, were screaming about the errors that are being made, and you be on the victim of 1 in 10 going wrong for you. You be on the end of 1 in 10 going wrong for you. And now that you're not, it's still not good enough.
Yeah, I think, look, the beginning of last season when the high bar came in, I think the majority of people in the game were really happy. And it was a very obvious difference that helped the game. And I think he's trying to continue that. This was a bad error. And it does leave a bad taste.
And Salisbury, the VAR official, Danny, dropped from Liverpool Arsenal.
I don't mind that.
Nothing for the referee.
Kick up the backside.
No, there's no implication at all.
Well, it should have been. Should have been.
Thereafter.
They both deserve a kick up the backside for that one.
And the referee may have got one.
Yeah.
He may well have got one. He may well be. How do you introduce? I mean, the wonderful thing about refereeing that none of us understand is what it's like to be a referee.
Of course.
And we're all saying here, and I'm all for it, to say, be stronger, right? But put yourself in that situation, and of course they have to have a mentality to be a referee, where you've got the crowd waiting for you, you've got the monitor mentality, you've got VAR introducing thinking, and you've got a split decision to make.
Yeah.
And so you take what we think in this room is the path of least resistance.
Yeah. It's understandable.
Until you've done it,
yeah,
it's difficult. But referees are not there to make the wrong decisions.
But you're always in the territory of back yourself. No matter what the job is, back yourself.
Go hard or go home.
The VAR put him in
and if you're a top referee, you should be able to cope with all of the ingredients that go with it.
Here's the thing. If he goes hard and goes home and gets it wrong, is he going to be given any dispensation for that? No, he's going to get slammed for that too.
But he could never have got that wrong.
Yeah. No, in any other instance, no, absolutely. People might, but no one would be saying to him, "Well done for going hard for going home." There'd be very few people. You might pop up because you've got a balanced mind and say,
I would have said,
"Isn't that great that they've gone to the monitor and turned it down?" But a lot of people would have said nothing. They've taken it as a given.
The sad thing is, Dan, and you played the game at the highest level. The goal's wiped from the annals, isn't it?
It's a tough one for the young lad. Great goal as well,
and it's a great goal. And it's no longer going to be played back. Over
it was also
Look at that great bit of skill when he did that to Chalobah.
Exactly,
and went for it and buried it.
It was also a big one because the Chelsea fans would have just started turning, and Fulham were dominating them. They were brilliant first half.
Yeah,
absolutely running all over them. So it's a shame, but they're going to. As Simon said, and he's right. I'm afraid that it's never going to be perfect.
Damn it!
It's just
not often wrong, and he's right again.
But that's why That's why punditry has a responsibility. And I'm just reading this book called Injury Time, which is all about a particular chapter on referees. And it is this constant deluge where the game is suddenly, it's led by managers, led by pundits, where all of a sudden the referees are just fair game for endless criticism.
Can I just say that on the weekend, and just because I want Simon to tap me on the back for this, I did hammer them, but I also pointed out what I just told you, the goal they got and all the little bits they got right.
Yeah.
So they're capable.
Sure.
Moment of madness.
Balance,
Let's just call it that.
Which makes well, that's why you're one of the top pundits, my friend. We are dragging our feet a bit. It's coming up to 10 to 11 this morning, and we're live in talkSPORT. Wednesday morning, a lot to fit in. 3 hours is not enough when it comes to Danny Murphy joining Simon and myself in studio. Here's one for you. At this stage in the proceedings, after a near 2-year investigation, Lucas Paqueta has been cleared of charges of spot fixing. That was announced in July. Midfielder at West Ham was accused of deliberately getting booked to allow others to bet on the yellow cards he was receiving. But despite him being cleared on that, 2 charges of failing to answer questions and provide information to the FA's investigation were found to be proven. So what does that mean? Well, Paqueta is expected to escape a ban for those charges of failing to provide information to the FA, but he could yet face a fine, and that might come into the territory of something like £150,000. Simon, what's your take on it? I mean, after what has been a 2-year investigation that effectively came to nothing, are the FA desperately seeking some kind of a win here?
Well, I want to be careful how I frame my observations on this, because I'm not entirely sure he's been entirely exonerated. Whether the FA, I mean, if the FA have brought a very spurious set of charges against him, I'm assuming there must be some claim for damages against them. I'm assuming there must be some device for compensation, because somewhere along the line, this young man's lost out things, hasn't he? He was on a move to Manchester City. He was on a move to bigger clubs with bigger wages. So you would have thought that if these charges had no validation, no merit, no substance, and no grounds, that there would be some serious desire to get some degree of not just remedy in terms of being allowed to go on with your career, but some sort of readdress of the consequences as a result of what you've lost.
Well, on that, I mean, there's also expected to be a decision soon over whether or not the FA will pick up the costs of Paqueta's legal fees.
Well, that's not gain. That's not gain, is it? That's getting money back that you've spent. I mean, if you have been exonerated, that would be the very least of your concerns, wouldn't it? Your legal bills, because if you've been exonerated, you would have your legal bills fully covered by the other side because they lost. The fact is that it doesn't feel like that. It feels like that they weren't able to prove it beyond all reasonable doubt, which is not the same thing as being exonerated. So I'm trying to be careful with that.
Well, he's been cleared. The thing is, he's been cleared. So why should he run into a bill for 150 grand?
Well, indeed. Ask yourself that question. Because if it were me and I were fully exonerated, I would expect the very least for my legal costs to be paid by the side that lost.
Right.
The fact that my legal costs may not be being paid for the side that lost, or maybe his legal costs are much higher, and as a result of it, he's got qualified payments, i.e. charges, his legal costs have been paid to a qualified level rather than a fully indemnified level. But the point is that there's a bigger question here about what the FA, if you bring a charge against a player that brings his career into jeopardy, this is the most significant, this is saying to a player, you are guilty of fraud, and your entire livelihood is at risk here. You are facing a potential ban. And after 2 years, a player's lost opportunities to move to bigger clubs, lost money as a result of it, and at the end of it, all charges are dropped, and the player gets a bill. Doesn't sound quite like exoneration to me.
Not really. I mean, when you look at it, he's accused of maybe failing to provide information to the FA, but he's thought to have followed the advice of the club-appointed lawyers in terms of the information and answers that he himself provided.
Well, there's always this argument.
So he's only following legal advice.
Sure. There's always this argument, and I've been in very, very significant court cases for millions and millions of pounds, and I've taken very significant people to court for very significant cases, Dowie being the case in point for fraud, and won. So I know what the length and breadth of these things are, and I know what disclosure looks like. And I'm very keen to disclose things that help my case. I'm very keen to provide people with as much information as I possibly can to make sure they understand unequivocally where they are. Yet we seem to have had, in 2 instances, legal advice for Manchester City and for this player that involves you not providing information, because it's a bit like taking the fifth, isn't it? Don't provide information that may have the opportunity to incriminate you. That's my supposition on that position. But the fact of the matter is that, is it a legal remedy to not provide information? Is it an obligation? Do you sign up to a covenant by being a professional footballer governed by the FA as much as they govern anything? And you have a responsibility to cooperate.
Yeah.
Insofar as the FA are concerned, if you haven't cooperated and you're duty bound to cooperate, who is the arbiter of what cooperation looks like? Are you bound to give them information that they don't need any? If they ask you for the most ridiculous level of information that have no relevance because they're trying to concoct some idea of getting themselves out of a problem, who is the arbiter of what is reasonable information?
But if you choose to take the Fifth Amendment and not come up with any further information, then it comes back round to you that maybe you were withholding information and you might get penalised for that.
The general perception of the Fifth Amendment in America is that you're ultimately guilty of something. You just don't want to help you don't want to help people convict you. In this instance, there was also a desire for not to give people a case. If the FA want to make a case, you got a case, make your case. We aren't making your case for you. Make your own case. We don't think we've done anything wrong. It's not our job to help you make a case. Go make your own case. And I'm assuming, unless the competency level, and it's a huge leap on my part, is so devoid of competence that they must have had a bloody good case to bring. They can't be, if they're on a fishing expedition, if they were on a fishing expedition and making this young man a victim of their fishing, then surely there must be a consequence to the FA. Yeah. And it can't just be that the fella picks up his legal costs, can it?
No.
and gets on with his career. If he's not guilty of anything, he's had 2 years of his life, mental turmoil, recriminations, judgments, the threat of losing his livelihood,
lack of opportunity,
and the loss of opportunity. And he now walks away with a happy little smile, saying, "I've been guilty, not been found guilty of something I didn't do in the first place." I don't think so.
Well, just to be clear, he was cleared of spot fixing. The 4 charges against him related to a Premier League game against Leicester in November 2022, as well as the 23 fixtures against Villa in March, Leeds in May, and Bournemouth in the August. The Regulatory Commission found these 4 charges to be not proven following the hearing. Wednesday morning. It's all tough stuff, isn't it? And we're live on talkSPORT.
Past 11, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. 7 years since his last England call-up, Ruben Loftus-Cheek was at his mum's house when he got the text off the FA. He says it's a good feeling. The AC Milan midfielder is one of 10 Londoners in Tuchel's squad.
You know, that's why I kind of played my football, was on the street and in the cages every day. I think you develop technically, even though I'm a big guy.
Loftus-Cheek played a number of positions under Tuchel at Chelsea, including 6, 8 and right wing-back. England play Andorra on talkSPORT live on Saturday. There's a warning to Man City from a former player this morning. The club's struggling to rebuild under Pep Guardiola. They've lost their cloak of invincibility and are now losing out on signings to Liverpool and Arsenal. That's the assessment of Danny Mills.
There was a time, 3 or 4 years ago, where players would probably go to Manchester City for maybe even less money.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking, well, I'm going to win the Champions League, I'm going to win the league, I'm going to win this, I'm going to win that. Now they're thinking, well, actually, that looks like Liverpool are going to have a bigger chance of winning everything.
Now, some breaking news. The Olympic boxer at the centre of a gender row will not have an appeal heard in time for her to compete at this week's World Boxing Championships in Liverpool. Algeria's Iman Khalif appealed to the Court of Arbitration for Sport over mandatory gene tests for male chromosomes. More on this coming up in the show. And Novak Djokovic says he's got a couple of days to get his body ready to face Carlos Alcaraz on Friday. He's expecting their US Open semi-final to go the distance, with everyone in New York expecting another Alcaraz versus Sinner final.
We don't need to spend words about two of them. You know, we know that they're two best players in the world. Everybody's probably expecting and anticipating the finals between two of them. I'm going to try to mess up the plans of most of the people, and let's see.
Djokovic, now 38, is trying to win a record 25th Grand Slam. More at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
Have police gone too far in arresting Father Ted creator Graham Linehan? And it's soon going to be illegal for under 16s to buy energy drinks. More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Come rain or shine, wherever and whenever suits you with our mobile tyre fitting service. Now that will have you driving away happy every time. Conditions apply.
There's a warning for rain across southern England and South Wales for another 3 hours. Winds and heavy rain spreading northeast on a windy day.
Good morning, everybody. 5 minutes past 11 o'clock. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy. We are live on talkSPORT, and there's no escaping us because you can watch the show in a variety of different ways on your TV: Samsung, LG, Fire TV, Apple TV, Chromecast, Android, Google TV, even Prime Video. There is no escaping us, and thanks to everybody who is doing that, and I mean everybody. My God, we are humbled by what we hear on a daily basis. We're live all the way through until 1 o'clock. I mentioned at the top of the show, Danny has had a particularly tough week, of course. He's in here again, but it was live with me and Alex Crook and Ben Jacobs on deadline day on Monday night. And of course, we all know what happened then. And we all know what happened previous to deadline day. In the build-up to the 7 o'clock deadline itself, Alexander Isak got his way out of Newcastle into Liverpool, £125 million, but in the process kicked up a stink. Oh, the club broke promises. But in the process, he got his move. Same with Johan Wissa. Kicked up something of a stink at Brentford. Got his way. He's up in the northeast now, pulling on a Newcastle shirt. So it seems if you agitate, you get there. But Mark Guehi at Crystal Palace chose not to go down that road. And Danny, on Monday, thought maybe that was wrong.
Every player's individual, and Guehi's supposed to be a great lad, so respect to him for the way he's conducted himself. What I'm saying is, the way football is sometimes, this opportunity now might never come again. There's a possibility of that.
I get what you're saying.
Now, sometimes an opportunity comes to you in life where you have to do whatever it takes to get to that place, in whatever way you look at it.
Yeah.
He didn't. He decided, I'm going to keep playing, do the right thing. He made it easy for Palace to keep him. If he'd have kicked up a stink a couple of weeks ago, already out the team, telling Parish, if you don't let me have this opportunity, which might never come to me again, all the things that Isak's done, Wissa's done.
That was a Monday, now we're at Wednesday morning. Do you still stand by that, Mr. Murphy?
I stand by the fact if he'd have kicked up, he'd have got out, probably. Doesn't mean I'd necessarily say it's the right thing to do. Depends who you are and the way you think. I mean, he's got the luxury, unlike the others, of only having a year left. So if for the sake of 3 or 4 months, maybe, I don't know the conversations he's had, but maybe January could be the where Palace have time to get someone in and they let him go. So he's only looking at, what we got, 4 months or 3 or 4 months to that. So maybe he feels more comfortable with that. The risk he's got, which anybody has when they go on a football pitch, is injury. I'm not suggesting he won't get a move next summer if he gets injured, but his options might be less because it, depends on loads of things. But ultimately, he's the type of guy, by the looks of it, isn't comfortable doing that. And you have to respect that. And I think long-term he'll gain benefit from that in terms of the adoration he'll continue to keep forever from the Palace fans and all those things, which might mean a lot to him. It doesn't mean a lot to some players.
Do you think, Simon, that there are a degree of legs in the stories we have heard since then? It's understood, despite undergoing part of his Liverpool medical, an ultimatum from Glasner to the board saw the deal collapse. It was reported at one point last night that Guehi was going to release a statement that never came to light. There was no statement from Guehi. Other publications have suggested sources close to the player say he will reject any offer of a new contract from Palace and plans to leave as a free agent next summer.
Gee, that's insightful. He's already told us that. We know all that. He's not going to sign a new contract. He never was going to sign a new contract. That was clear a year ago.
Well, why would he? That'd be lunatic.
Why would he sign a new contract? I mean, the fact of the matter is that what we're talking about, he could have put a transfer request in. We he could have made it difficult for Palace by refusing to not play. But my view is that he can put a transfer request in and still play. And make his position very clear with Palace.
Yeah,
he would have made his position quite clear with Palace. The water seems to be muddied by Palace by wanting him available for games, wanting European competitions to be played. Eberechi couldn't do this because they wanted him to play in the first game of the Europa Conference. And all of these things form an outcome situation that is different to what people think should happen, or when it doesn't happen, or when it does happen to them, they don't like it. When it happens in their favour, they do like it. I mean, the Newcastle fans will be welcoming Visser in with open arms now, whilst the Brentford fans will think slightly differently of the situation because he's done to Brentford what Isak did to them. And Newcastle fans have forgotten that about Visser because it suits them to forget about it.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of hypocrisy in the nature of this sport, but who'd ever thought that there wasn't? I mean, the issue for this player is that, there's no issue for him. Danny's right to say the only difference is that he can get injured. He can get injured playing for Liverpool.
Yeah, but
he's a centre back. He's 25 years of age. Yes, of course, he's prepared to take that risk.
Yeah.
He's prepared to take the risk. The risk he could have taken was, I put in a transfer request, but I'm prepared to play. And I'm going to sit with the manager and say, you really must push the board. You really must push the board
to get
somebody in to replace him. Because the reason why Glasner threw his toys out the pram, because what I said yesterday was, what have Palace achieved? Let's look at what Palace have achieved. And I know we heard football fans yesterday saying, well, we're going to have a good season this season. At the end of next season, Guehi's going to be gone. You're going to get bugger all for him. And Glasner's going to be gone. So what did you achieve? You achieved Mark Guehi staying for probably another 4 or 5 months because he'll probably go in January.
I think he'll go in January.
And so with the best one in the world, Palace as a football club is bigger than Oliver Glasner.
Sure.
Bigger than Steve Parish, is bigger than Mark Guehi. So the outcome was, what did anyone really achieve? 5 minutes of more benefit from having a player. What should have happened, really, was Palace should have sold Guehi earlier on in the window, bought a centre-back and quietened it all down.
Do you think this would have got to this if Dougie was still there? Because it seems to run. To run a lot more smoothly.
Yeah, I do. I do. I don't want to breach confidences, but I think there were battles to get players signed when Dougie was there and players sold.
Danny, when it comes to players, are players tone deaf when it comes to social media or what they get their social media teams to put out in their name? Alexander Isak released a goodbye message to the club. I want to express my gratitude to my teammates, the staff, and above all, the city of Newcastle, the amazing fans for the 3 unforgettable years that we shared together. He goes on to say what it was like to win, of course, the Carabao Cup, to win a trophy. It's been an honour to be part of the journey from reaching the Champions League to winning the first trophy in over 70 years. Forever grateful. Thank you, Newcastle. That's what he puts out afterwards. But days before, don't bother trying to reintegrate me into the squad because I'm not having it.
It's the lesser of two evils. Damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Because if he doesn't, he looks like he doesn't care. And then someone will say, well, he could have at least said thanks for the time.
But answer me this. Anthony Gordon and Sven Botman know they're going to pull on a Newcastle shirt and run out in front of their fans sooner than later. Gordon on social media, and I like Anthony, I've met him a few times, he's a good lad, but he says, regardless of the situation and what's gone on, it's been a pleasure to play with you. That's what he wrote. One of the best chemistries I had in the pitch. More importantly, a great person and teammate. I wish you nothing but the best, brother. Sven Botman. What started off as teammates growed in one of my rare best friendships. No words needed, brother. All the best in your next chapter.
I don't mind that. I understand where you're going with it.
Would you have done that?
I don't know. Social media. I don't think so because I wouldn't be on there. But
I don't want to reintegrate with them. Don't put me back in with them because I want to go there.
Yeah, but that ain't a reflection of the personalities of the players.
And then they, after he gets his move to go there, come out and say, what a great guy.
Isak thought he had to do those things to get his move, and he got his move. His relationship with the players and his friendship with those guys wouldn't have been damaged in any way. Footballers aren't that way. In fact, the Newcastle lads will completely understand why he's done what he's done, because half of them would have done it themselves. You know, that's the reality of it. Let's be straight here. If Anthony Gordon was in the same position, I think he'd have probably done the same.
But from Gordon and Botman...
And he will when a bigger club comes in for him.
Well, he'd be desperate to go Liverpool.
Would a private message to Isak
suffice? Yeah. I think that would work, yeah.
But all the best,
and protect yourself from the fans.
You've been through a lot. It's been a bit shaky.
Yeah, but I've got you back.
Luck.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. It would be the sensible way to do it. Because what Anthony Gordon...
You don't understand social media, do you?
No, but they have left themselves open a little bit to the fan base.
But that's how social media is. Why does anybody put up anything on social media? Why? So who are you?
Money.
Who
Some
are you
people to
talking
make money.
No, but I mean, who are we talking to? When every time we put something on Twitter, who are we talking to? I can talk to my mate across the room. I don't need to put something on Twitter and go, I hated this game against Liverpool versus Arsenal. It was boring. Why do people do things on social media? Because the nature of the beast is people get attention. People get a reaction.
So are you saying you put things on Twitter for attention?
I say
what you just said.
I say that I put things on social media because I probably want to get a reaction.
Or you end up arguing with people who said when you were at Palace you had orange hair or something. But that's my very point.
It wasn't orange.
So hold on, Jim. Do you put stuff on Twitter just when you're bored to have a row?
Not to have a row.
Well, if it's not for attention, it's just for fun. To just agitate people.
Yeah, but no, not to agitate people. It's probably I'm probably a bit bored in the company that I'm in. So I sit next to him tweeting all the time. That's why.
I don't think Anthony Gordon and Sven Botman have done what they did on social media to get a reaction.
Why have they done it then?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Well, why do you think?
Why, I said to Danny,
why do you think
maybe a private message would have sufficed.
I've given you a reason what I think they've done it for, right?
Go on.
You're saying to get a reaction.
Well, I think it's a social media age. I think people can't help but either virtue signal or show how wonderful they are, how much they support their colleague, right? For whatever reason. He knows they support him. Pick up the phone. I really support you, mate. Good luck with your career. Boom. Yeah. But why do you want social media? Because we are the age. So if I think that, right, that's my view of it.
Yeah.
Why do you think they did it?
Could they have done it to back him? To just give him some support?
I'm genuinely confused as to why they would.
Well, if they're good,
because as I said in the build-up to it, they've got to pull on the Newcastle shirt. They know what all that lot think. Maybe how Isak behaved.
Because they think he's justified to do what he did, probably.
Maybe they're both strong characters, and they think I'll back my mate so they can take some of the.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Or maybe they think he's done nothing wrong. Or maybe they think that all the hysteria outside of the football club doesn't reflect the reality of what they know behind the scenes, which is more often the case.
Maybe he's never refused to play. We don't know that.
Correct.
Eddie Howe's never said he refused to play.
Well, what you would like to see is them vilify him.
There's an interesting one. If Simon left for another radio station, would Jim not thank him publicly?
Not if.
When? Not if. Yeah.
What would you say, Jim?
Oh, mate, I'd need to do a word count because the message would be explosive. It would be public,
especially on the other radio station. They say how useless you were.
Yes, indeed. And then I'd send him a private message at night. I never want to see you again. It's 11:15. Of course, we're all very excited here about what Moses Etoma might achieve in the fight game. Only yesterday, Kalle Sauerland of Wasserman was in the studio here raving about Etoma, who is destined to go to the very top. But it's not just UK boxers who are hitting the headlines. Aussie boxer, you might remember, Justice Huni. He was magnificent up against Fabio Wardley. I think it was back in June at Portman Road. Huni had been largely in control of a 12-round bout before Wardley landed the brutal blow midway through the 10th that saw the end of Huni. Australian boxers, there's a bunch of them who really catch the eye, and another one would have to be the lad from New South Wales, Jai Opetaia. It was announced down under yesterday that Jai Opetaia, the IBF Cruiserweight champion, is to defend his title on home soil against a German challenger. But this guy carries a threat, Hussein Kinkakara. And I'm delighted to say Mick Francis, who is the manager of Opetaia, joins us from down under on the show this morning. Mick, it's always good to speak to you, my friend. You've already had your Wednesday. It's Wednesday night there, isn't it?
It is, mate. It is Wednesday night. It's about 8:30 at night here on Wednesday night. So, yeah, we're a little ahead of you, Jim. So it's good to see you anyway, mate.
Good to speak to you. And how was your Wednesday? Because, Mick, because you've got such a good stable of fighters, you've become one of the busiest guys in the fight game, have you not?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we've got a world-class stable down here in Australia. I was on an interview last night with a local program, and we've probably got the strongest stable in Australia, if not one of the strongest stables in the world. It's not only myself. Obviously, I work closely with Spencer Brown. Spencer Brown's a big part of our company down here in Australia, and he's really keen to get behind Australian boxing as well as Eddie Hearn. He showed a bit of interest. He's dipped his toe in the water down here as well. So, look, we've got some good stars down here. We just need to give these guys some pathways and opportunities, especially overseas, Riyadh season. And look, sky's the limit. But we've got some great athletes down here. They just need pathways.
You sure have. Of course, we talk here about Moses Etoma just demolishing anyone that's put in front of him. You could say the same about your man, Jai Opetaia. And I've been with you in the company of Jai, and he's a very impressive lad, but he's impressive in the ring, Mick. 28-0, 22 KOs, and now he goes in against this fella, Hussein, the Hurricane Kinkara, I think the pronunciation of his name is.
Yeah, Sin Cara.
Now, Sin Cara. So when is that one? That's happening down under. When and thereafter, if Jai comes through it, what would be next?
Yeah, look, date-wise, it's we supposed to win the Perth bit a week ago. They put in a request to extend it an extra week, which I don't know why, because all they did was stall things. And the issue is with down here, we don't have the luxury of many venues. It's really struck for venues, and especially with government funding and things like that. So we really need the plan. But the rules of the IBF is they can't fight within 30 days and no later than 90 days. So it's got to be in that time frame after the agreement's done. So we've identified a date, probably the 2nd of November, the 2nd of November or the 3rd of November, somewhere in that. We're just making sure that the venue is available. But we're in talks tonight with the zone if they'll take the feed. So there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes, but that's the date that we've identified. And the reason being, we just need to get Jai. It's about 8 weeks away. We need to get Jai back in the ring. He needs to be active because there's opportunities later in the year. And who knows, like I know the Chris Eubank Jr. event and the Conor Ben event hasn't been contracted yet. And they tell me it's going to be late December, mid to late December. So if there's any truth to that, there could be an opportunity for Jai maybe to fight on that particular card as well, since he's a Riyadh season ambassador. But look, yeah, you just got to stay ready in this game, and that's what Jai tends to do.
I'll bring Simon in because, Simon, you're well versed in what Jai Opetaia has done so far. 28-0, 22 KOs. My God, he doesn't hang around. In Sin Cara, maybe he is the man who could give him problems. But do you see anyone, Simon, from what you've seen, capable of derailing Jai Opetaia?
Certainly not a 40-year-old, no. The challenge for me is Jai Opetaia is an elite fighter, as Mick knows, so it doesn't need me to tell him that. Some of the fights that Jai's have been in about levels. I think Jai's on a different level to some of the fights that he's been in, whether it's Jack Messi, whether it's Jordan Thompson, whether it's Elisoro. I think the best test we've seen of Jai was against Marius Breedis. He came through both of those fights. The only fight I'm really interested in seeing Jai in is against Zurdo Ramirez. And that's the fight I want. I'm sure that's the fight Mick wants. I mean, this is the best fighter in the cruiserweight division, in my view. I think the cruiserweight doesn't have a depth of talent that I think that Jai Opetaia can prosper from. And I'll be interested to see what Mick thinks about Jai landing in the heavyweights. But there's no doubt to me that the best cruiserweight around is Jai Opetaia. But the fight that I want to see him in, and I'm sure that Mick does too, is Zurdo Ramirez.
And was Ramirez the man, am I right, who took care of Billam Smith?
Well, yeah, he's got the 2 belts. I mean, the champion of recess. Is Badu Jack still in recess, Mick?
No, he's got a mandatory coming up. It's actually a rematch of his last fight. Now, I know there's not a lot of interest in that particular fight because I think it was a bit of a snooze fest, if you remember.
Yeah, I agree.
But, he's another 41-year-old champion, which I'll be honest, these guys are just holding up the division because there's a lot of good young talent coming through, but no one knows about them because they can't get a shot. Like the heavyweight division, there's a new generation of heavyweights coming through, and it's only a matter of time, as we see with like Justice Heaney and the likes of Moses and guys like that. But the cruiserweight division is stuck full of guys that are 35 plus. Chris Billam-Smith is a fight that Jai always wanted.
Yep.
We come on this program a couple of times, and Jai actually called him out numerous times. Jai still wants that fight.
Yep.
So there's only realistically, in the cruiserweight division, there's only 3 fights that make sense. This particular fight is a mandatory, so we just got to get this out of the way. This isn't a fight that we really want. Yep. We know that Jai's going to come and destroy this guy in about 3 or 4 rounds tops. But we just got to go through the process. It is what it is. The cruiserweight division is quite soft after you get past the top 3. Chris Billam-Smith, he's been offered the opportunity to fight for the WBO interim title against Roman Freeze, which obviously, I think that goes 3 rounds as well. Billam-Smith, Ramirez, Badu Jack, they're the only fights. And the only reason we want Badu Jack is that WBC title. That's all. There's no commercial value in a lot of these fights, and because we know how they're going to go. And I remember years ago when Mike Tyson was going around, and the pubs and the venues were packed because they knew Mike Tyson was an animal and he was going to knock these guys out in 1 and 2 rounds. That's how Jai is right now. Like, the interest isn't to come and see how these the fight goes. It's what round Jai actually knocks these guys out. So And that's our marketing play. Like, pick a round. If it's 1, 2, or 3, pick one.
So what's the plan then, Mick? Jai comes through what lies ahead for him, and then it would be Jai Opetaia, the heavyweight.
Yeah, well, that's the plan. The thing is with Jai, he doesn't want to go up and down. Once he goes up, he's going to stay up. Now, he's just turned 30 a couple of months ago, so by the age of 32, he's got to go up because we can't hold on for too much longer. 35, he wants to retire. Like, we don't want to be in this game forever. So he's got a young family. So he obviously wants to, to be healthy for them in the future. So we want to get in and get this done as fast as possible.
Sure.
That's why he wants to stay active. But I think, look, he's got to get through this particular fight. We can't look past this guy because anything can happen. I know it's a hard sell. But we're going to do our best to sell it. And then hopefully at the back end of this year, there's a slim chance, and I know it's a slim chance, but there could be a very slim chance that, depending on what happens with the WBO, like the Chris Bill and Smith fight may be there in December on junior card. Like, who knows? Like, boxing's a crazy game, and you just got to be prepared for all opportunities. So if we got that fight, we'd be doing backflips. But I would say Chris Bill and Smith will take an easier option and go down the WBO route once again and fight Roman Freeze, where he'll probably stop in 3 rounds. So I could probably see that happening. So Zerto Ramirez, we've been told that he's going to be available January, February next year. But there's no way in hell he's going to go straight into a fight with Jai Opetaia. He's going to want another warm-up fight. So there we are with Jai. He's hanging, waiting again. So the earliest I can see that Ramirez fight is probably June next year. And I'll be honest, mate, it's just holding the division up. And the sooner Jai can unify the division, he'll unify the division for one day, and then he'll go to heavyweight straight after that.
Okay, mate.
That's his plan.
Mick, always good to speak to you. Mick Francis joining us live on the show. I think it's who's brave enough to go in with Opetaia, Simon, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Opetaia's at a level, but I mean, don't forget Maris Briedis did put up 2 good performances.
Sure.
And the second performance Maris Briedis put in was that he hadn't fought for 18 months, and he made it much harder for Jai than I anticipated it. But Jai is the monster in the division.
Yeah.
And Mick talks in a typical Antipodean way, but the Jai Opetaia is the A side. And the fight against Ramirez is the only one that really makes sense. And Ramirez has got the WBO and the WBA.
Yeah.
The problem is that they're allowing people like Badu Jack to sit around on their backsides for a year, not having fights.
Yeah. Well,
no money in the division, Jim. No money in the division.
Yeah.
That's why it's not being.
As Mick said, hopefully soon we'll see Jai Opetaia in against Chris Bill Smith. We'll watch for that one. It's 11:30.
Former Man City player Danny Mills.
There was a time, 3 or 4 years ago, where players would probably go to Manchester City for maybe even less money.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking, well, I'm going to win the Champions League, I'm going to win the league, I'm going to win this, I'm going to win that. Now they're thinking, well, actually, that looks like Liverpool are going to have a bigger chance of winning everything.
Meanwhile, Thomas Tuchel is being encouraged to consider Elliot Anderson for England this week.
I'm not necessarily saying he should start, but he should definitely be in Tuchel's thinking. He was outstanding in the summer, England's best player out at the under-21s.
talkSPORT's Henry Winter says Anderson can definitely play in a deeper midfield role alongside Declan Rice. England versus Andorra in World Cup qualifying is live on talkSPORT this Saturday. Wales play tomorrow and around 1,000 members of the Red Wall are making the 3,000-mile journey to Kazakhstan. Scotland are away to Denmark on Friday night. Now, still no wins for Peterborough this season. They lost 3-1 at home to 10-man Leyton Orient in the Football League Trophy. With them sitting bottom of League One, director Barry Fry has tried to pick up talkSPORT's big man pairing of Brazil and McCoist.
I tried to sign you, but I couldn't afford the fee talkSPORT wanted for you. I'm desperate for a goal.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+gambleaware.org.
And we're joined by Charlie Robertson from BetMGM. And I think this morning with Danny in the studio, we're going to be concentrating more on golf. Who needs Rupert Bell when we have Danny Murphy? Charlie, good morning to you. The Ryder Cup. And we now know both completed teams, do we not?
We do indeed, Jim. Yeah, the final 12 have been picked Monday on for Europe and last Wednesday for America. So yeah, we know the 12 players for each team that we're doing battle in a couple of weeks. Just sort of update on where the money's gone since those teams, Jim. Luke Donald's side have been backed since Luke picked his team. They're now 11-10 from 6-4 to retain it. They obviously need just 14 points to retain it. And they're 6-4 to win it outright, with the Americans still the favourites at 8-11. And a tie, which I actually don't think's completely out of the equation. It hasn't happened since 1989, and that's an 11-1 chance. But I do think these teams are quite evenly matched, so that could be a runner. Just in terms of the two teams, Jim, there's 11 of the 12 that won for Europe in Rome, with Rasmus replacing his brother Nikolai. They're identical twins, so might be quite hard to know which one's playing. But yeah, that's the only change for them. And then the Americans have got 4 rookies in Ben Griffin, JJ Spawn, Russell Henley and Cameron Young. Danny, I'll come to you as it's a Wednesday, and I know how much we love to talk about golf on a Wednesday. A lot of people have sort of, as I mentioned, the money has been for the Europeans, with I think a few people pointing to those 4 American rookies. But I was actually looking back, and in Rome, America had 4 rookies and they contributed to 8 of the 11.5 points. So I personally don't think it's that much of an issue. But what are your sort of thoughts on the two teams, Danny? Did you envisage those two teams being picked? I know you mentioned Maverick McNeely could be one that might have missed out, unfortunately.
Yeah, I actually watched the captain explain his picks and stuff, and it made sense in terms of form and where they're all at, the Americans. The European one, it makes even more sense with the experience. Only one change, which gives them continuity and, consistency. I think it's going to be so tight. I actually watched the rerun of the last one last night. It was amazing. I got the juices flowing, but I think there's so much talent, so many good players playing well at the moment. That first day could be crucial. I honestly couldn't split them. I really couldn't. Just so excited for it.
You watch a lot of reruns of the Ryder Cup?
It was a behind-the-scenes kind of documentary, brilliantly made. I'd never seen it before.
Excellent. Yeah,
you'd have enjoyed it, Jim.
I think I've seen it. Sorry, Charlie, carry on.
No, I was just going to say I completely agree with Danny. I think the tie is a serious runner this year. I think they are two really evenly matched teams. I think if I had to favour, I'd probably just say the Americans, given how hard it is to win on American soil. I know obviously we did it at Medina, but I think history is actually against the Americans. I think the Europeans have won 5 of the last 7, so it is against the Americans. But I do look at what happened in Rome with, Scheffler crying after that defeat and stuff, and I think there is a big point to prove. So,
who are the identical twins, Danny? Who are we talking about here?
Rasmus and Nikolai.
I mean, that's great, is it not?
They're both brilliant. Yeah, Rasmus has overtaken his brother.
Yeah. So if one's not putting and isn't and has gone right off the boil, get the twin on to sub them. No,
they're not both in the team.
No, but I'm saying have them around the course just in case you need them.
Oh, I see what you mean.
They're identical.
Oh, sneak him out from the crowd.
Sneak him out. There you go.
Jim. Yeah, if he's having a bad day. Yeah,
that's right.
It's called cheating.
Yeah. Identical twins. I mean, was it the Irish interviewer once said to the Proclaimers, so you guys go back a long way then, do you? The Irish Open tomorrow with Rory, Shane and Tyrrell teeing up alongside Luke Donald. What were we thinking then, Charlie?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Jim, a really strong field playing at the K Club as from tomorrow. With Ryder Cup as Rory, Tyrrell and Shane among the field. Rory, who I was actually looking through, is despite a few people saying he's not in form, has been really solid since winning the Masters. He's the 4-1 favourite with Hatton, who I do think is probably the most likely winner. Actually, I think I'd probably just side with him over Rory at 12-1, and Shane Lowry again on home soil at 16-1. Danny, I was sort of looking through. I did think Brooks Koepka could be interesting at 50-1 if he's on a going week. It's always quite hard to know which Koepka will turn up. But where are you sort of looking in terms of a bet potentially this weekend?
Well, I think what you said is right, because they'll be dialed in, ready for the Ryder Cup. You expect them to take it really seriously and try and get their form up. So I think, between McIlroy and Hatton, probably an outside bet, playing great at the moment. Tristan Lawrence, powerful boy, like on top of his game at the moment, can play free. He's somebody who what is he, 30, 40 odd to 1 maybe?
Yeah, 40-1. He obviously won in the mountains last week, didn't he? And I know a couple of players have won that and then played really well in Ireland, so I can definitely see the case for him. He's a very solid player.
That would be my outside bet to any listeners.
All right. What does your head tell you? And I'll make a note of this. Who do you think will win the Irish Open, Danny?
Go Rory.
Rory. Yeah.
I think he's dialed in.
I think he's dialed in.
Saw him do an interview the other day and he just looked like he's ready.
Yeah. You want to throw your hat into the ring in this one?
I don't care either which way. and I was going to place a bet based upon the information I got from our golfing expert, Rupert, who told me that it was 1 member of the Ryder Cup team for the Europeans that played in the last time in America, and it turns out there were 7.
Oh, really?
So I feel that I'm in the presence of...
Rupert's not here to defend himself.
Yeah.
Allege.
I know. What a thing to say, to allege about Rupert when he's not even...
He said it. Here. 1. I asked him. He said, Rory McIlroy, 1.
He spends most days of his week picking on old
He was too busy
people.
polishing his bowler hat.
Charlie, thank you very much indeed for that. Maybe Rupert came on the other day when he was actually royal correspondent. Or,
could have been.
Maybe he was...
Could have been.
He was in another guise.
Absolutely.
Remember, visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+, begambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Wednesday morning, what's left of it. Just coming up to 10 to 12. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy. We are live on talkSPORT. Want to get into a discussion with our Italian football expert friend Daniele Fisichella about the number of UK players, Brits, now playing in Italian football. Going to get to that, but want to highlight one in particular because former Leicester and England striker Jamie Vardy has now completed a move to the Serie A club Cremonese on a free transfer. And I'm delighted to say Daniele joins us live. Daniele, good morning. How did this one come about? Because Vardy is still a big name in the English game, and Cremonese, with all due respect to them, not a major name in Italian football.
No, they are newly promoted, although they started the season extremely well with 2 wins from 2 games, including against AC Milan. And it's been an opportunity for Cremonese, who are ambitious. They are a serious club that wanted to strengthen the squad. So it's been a big summer of signings for them. They signed over 14 players. And Vardy is just the last piece of the jigsaw. They were looking for another striker. They were looking for someone experienced because Cremonese in Italy are a fairly big name, are a team that have emerged especially in the 80s. They played in Serie A few seasons in the 90s. If you remember, they were winners of the Anglo-Italian Cup back in 1993 at Wembley. So they are quite well known, but they've always had troubles in recent years to maintain the category. They've always went down straight away. And obviously, adding a player of such a magnitude and such a class as Jamie Vardy is the hope that this time they can achieve salvation.
I was going to say, how's it gone down with their fans? Because he's still a big name and he certainly knows where the goal is.
The Vardy mania, it's already in full blown because last Sunday he landed in Milan and he was welcomed by dozens of Cremonese fans. And one of these fans had a Vardy tattoo on his calf, which of course Vardy then signed. There were a few with Leicester City shirts. And, you know, Jim, I am in a few WhatsApp group with friends doing the fantasy league here in Italy. There's only one name that is circulating since a couple of weeks, and that's Jamie Vardy. Everyone wants Jamie Vardy. It's really almost a marquee signing that has overshadowed the other signings that come to Italy, from De Bruyne to Modric this summer. And you must say, I mean, Cremonese are really pulling all the strings. We've seen the pictures earlier of Vardy next to a violin. So they've made already a new nickname, Stradivardi, and that's because Cremona's most famous son is Antonio Stradivari, the craftsman of the 16th century who made the famous violin Stradivarius.
Yes.
So of course that was a very clever move, but it's not a marketing move. They do really need somebody to play there up top. And obviously, they've offered him a contract of 1 year plus another year if they manage to stay in Serie A. But from the player's point of view, it's a great move because, of course, it's not about the money. It's about his eagerness to prove he's still a great player in a foreign league.
And we're looking at that picture of him right now, Daniele. Funnily enough, Simon was just telling me the Stradivarius collection at the Violin Museum testifies to the city's violin-making heritage.
I was.
Yes. So you were spot on, Daniele, with that. In all honesty, Danny, how do you see this move for Vardy? Because, to be fair to him, he's taken on a challenge here at the tender age of 38.
Well, it's probably quite clever because the one thing you know with Vardy is he's infectious. He's got this amazing passion for the game, and he's the same in training by all accounts. So he's going to inspire those around with the work ethic he always brings. He's a very determined fella. He always has been. He's played the same way, like Duracell Bunny, isn't he?
Yeah.
So that energy is going to be infectious. And he's been around the block. He's played at the top level for a long time and succeeded. So he can help others if he's got that capability. I don't know him personally to know if he's good at that or not. But I would imagine that would have been in Cremonese's thinking in regards to bringing him in, not just for what he brings, which he's still got a bit in him, but it's the leadership and the ability to help others, which would have been one of the things they.
I admire him for the challenge, Simon.
Sure.
He could have
stayed delightful wife with him as well. I was going to ask you, Daniela, what is the thinking behind the manager? I mean, you've got a manager that's been put in place now that seems to have managed a whole raft of teams, with none of them being particularly successful. What is the thinking behind the appointment of a manager? Obviously, I would imagine replacing the manager that got him promoted last year with a manager that seems to have a win record of about 25% everywhere he goes.
But Davide Nicola, Cremonese's manager, is the specialist in Italy of salvations. Every team he has took over, Crotone, Genoa, Empoli, Cagliari, Salernitana, he managed to save them all, sometimes even coming mid-season. So he's the right man for the job. And of course, replacing the manager who got them promoted, Stroppa, was a bit of a gamble. But probably there's no one better in Serie A than Davide Nicola to save a small team. And by the way that Nicola is going to play and set up the team is going to suit Vardy. He likes to play with a low block, 3-5-2, play on the counter. They're extremely organized, and they won in Milan against AC Milan, not by chance. So I think ultimately he's going to ask Vardy to be clinical, which he's always been, to score goals, maybe go into double figures, help Cremonese to get saved. But I don't think Vardy is an automatical starter for Cremonese. They got good strikers, Bonazzoli, Sanabria, De Luca. Maybe they are not known to the English publics, but believe me, there is competition there. So, Vardy will have to be at his best to play for a team where every point counts.
Daniele, why is Serie A providing such a British renaissance, if you like? In years gone by, we recall Gaza playing out there, of course, Paul Ince. But you look at it now, McTominay and Gilmour at Napoli, and they've just been joined there by De Bruyne. Lewis Ferguson, Scott, of course, playing for Bologna. All of a sudden, there's a whole bunch of them out there, and they've made Serie A their destination.
For two reasons, Jim. I think because obviously Serie A still appeals to a lot of foreign players because it's a good league and it's a great country to live in. Of course, I'm biased in that. But also I think because history repeats itself in reverse. Back in the 90s, were the Italian players migrating to the Premier League, and perhaps those players whose career in Italy was coming to an end. I think about Andrea Silenzi, Gianluca Festa, and Nicola Berti. Then, of course, we had the late Vialli, Ravanelli, but they were towards the end of their career, even the same Paolo Di Canio, if you like, because at that time Italy was considered the best league in the world. Now the thing has reversed, and obviously Italian teams are still very ambitious and they're competing in the Champions League, so they need good players with good experience, and getting the players who are used to the high rhythms of the Premier League has worked out. And with the examples you mentioned, and recently Inter got Akanji, for example. Okay, he's not a British player, but he's got experience in the Premier League, so he seems to fit the move from a country to another, and of course we hope it might continue.
You'll be well aware, Daniele, that the Serie A president Ezio Simonelli is still optimistic that we're going to see February's fixture between Milan and Como being played in Perth in Western Australia. Before we get into that, we had a fellow on yesterday, Simon and myself, who was a spokesman for the European fans group, Ronan Evan, who pushed back on this altogether.
This is something that has to do with the very essence of the game. A club is connected to a city, to a territory, to a community, to a country, and starting to move domestic competition abroad is the end of this football as we know it. It's the end of this connection between the club and the territory. So there is no baby step that we will accept. There is no compromise. There is no and the project that we are fighting against at the moment, their main argument is that it's just one game out of 380. But this is to test the waters, obviously, and then we know how this will pan out. Death by a thousand cuts. We start with one game, and then we open the Pandora's box, and God knows where this will end.
So the fan spokesman not having it one little bit, Daniele. Do you think it's worth it that a Serie A game goes out to Australia, that a La Liga game, more specifically, I think it was going to be played Villarreal Barcelona in Miami, Florida. Is this going to happen?
I think it's going to happen because it's an opportunity. And by the way, the idea came from the Australians. That's because on the 8th of February, when Milan Como is scheduled to take place in Serie A, there's going to be the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics at the San Siro. So that game would have been rescheduled anyway. Therefore, the Australian government, following last season AC Milan-Roma game in Australia, which attracted a big crowd, 56,000 people, made the inquiries to AC Milan and to the FA if they were willing to move this game abroad in order not to reschedule it as well with the congested fixtures. Obviously, the Italian FA agrees because there are some huge fees involved. Milan are happy. Como, by the way, are also happy as well. They've got foreign investors in their team as well, so they want to broaden their horizons. We are waiting for UEFA final decisions on the 11th of September. The only issue at the moment is what's going to happen to the AC Milan season ticket holders, who obviously are not going to travel 8,000 miles to watch Milan Como. Well, probably they're going to be reimbursed. But, I think this is an opportunity for everyone. And bearing in mind, for the last 3 seasons, the Italian Super Cup has been played in Riyadh. I cannot see why not. This is not going to happen, considering everything might fall into place.
Daniele, grazie, ciao. Thank you so much.
Grazie. Ciao, ciao.
See, you never lose it, do you? It's going to happen. The Italians are going. They're going to Australia.
Well, that's his version of events. But
the Spanish are going to America.
That's what I said yesterday to the fellow that was suggesting that it was not going to happen, and they were going to do everything within their power, and they wouldn't tolerate one single step towards that.
Yeah.
And it will happen.
It will happen. And who's next? Premier League match.
It might be the Scots, that's for sure.
No, that's true. But the Scots, meantime, doing heck of a well in Italy, I will say, to
You
defend.
should get yourself out to Naples and interview those 2 boys, Jim.
Thanks very much, Danny. Come with me. Why don't you? We'll leave him back here. McTominay, Gilmore, Lewis Ferguson at Bologna. They're all there, and they're all doing well. I'm here, and we're trying our best. It's 12 noon.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Commercial vehicles built around your business. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines at 1 minute past 12, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good afternoon. 7 years on from his last England call-up, Ruben Loftus-Cheek felt another one was always possible under Tuchel, and it's a good job he wasn't on holiday when the text arrived from team manager Ruth Corrie.
And I said, I'm in England, and she was like, perfect. I was actually seeing my mum. I was at my mum's house, so it was, it was a good feeling, yeah.
Cheek played all over midfield for Tuchel at Chelsea, even right wing back. England versus Andorra is live on talkSPORT this Saturday. Former Man City defender Danny Mills has told us the club are now losing out to Liverpool and Arsenal in the transfer market, and Guardiola is struggling with the rebuild.
Have City brought in four players to improve their 11, or just to improve their squad at the moment? It's probably to improve their squad, I would say.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to go some and be almost perfect every single week to challenge for the title.
Danny told us City got their recruitment really wrong previously. Now, the Olympic boxer at the centre of a row over her gender will not be able to compete at this week's World Boxing Championships in Liverpool. Algeria's Imani Khalif lodged an appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport over compulsory tests for male chromosomes, but that won't be heard in time. And as Carlos Alcaraz warms up for his US Open semi-final by playing golf with Sergio Garcia, Novak Djokovic has a few days to get his 38-year-old body ready for a serious battle.
Going to do my very best with my team to be fit for that. There's going to be a lot of running involved. That's for sure. I mean, there's not going to be short points.
That game's on Friday. More at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner's referred herself to the standards watchdog after admitting she didn't pay enough tax on her second home. And should officers be policing streets rather than tweets after the arrest of Father Ted creator Graham Linehan? More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. At QuickFit, we're all about keeping you safe on the road. With our comprehensive motor insurance, we're here for every journey. Search QuickFit Motor Insurance to find out more.
That warning for rain across southern England and South Wales is in place for another 2 hours. Winds and heavy rain spreading northeast on a windy day.
Good afternoon, everybody. 4 minutes past 12 noon. It's Jim White, it's Simon Jordan, and it's Danny Murphy, and we are live on talkSPORT. Thrilled to be with you this lunchtime. Thrilled that so many of you watch the show as well as listen to it, and I'm serious about that. These days, you can watch us on your TV, Samsung, LG, Fire TV, Apple TV, Chromecast, Android, Google TV, and even Prime Video. Wherever you want to watch us, making some kind of equipment in the background.
Remarking about something, don't we?
Thank you so much. As I say, we're with you all the way through until 1 o'clock, but I mean it. Great opportunity for you to watch the show these days, and many of you are doing just that. And many of you, I'm thrilled to say, were watching in big numbers the other night when Danny, myself, Ben Jacobs and Alex Crook were on. No sign of Simon. He was at home resting on transfer deadline day evening into the night, and it was quite a night as well. But what has changed for Liverpool? Danny, of course, a Liverpool legend. Jamie Carragher, a Liverpool legend. And this is worth pursuing because when you look at it, could we have expected that Liverpool would spend well on 400 million quid on reinforcements? We know that Nunez has gone, that Luis Diaz has gone, but in came Florian Wirtz earlier on in the window for a cool 116 million. And of course, the other night, in came Alexander Isak for £125 million. Keen to get Danny's view on this. Jamie Carragher, in his column in The Telegraph, with the British record signing of Isak, Liverpool's transformation into the Premier League's Galacticos is now complete. The underdog card, which Klopp played to such a powerful effect during his tenure, has expired. Under Arne Slot, they're the heavyweight champions, pushing on to retain their belt for the foreseeable future. And then he finishes with, seeing the club spend over 400 million quid in one transfer window represents a bold new world for those of us emotionally invested in the Merseyside club. Do you share that view, Dan? Has this really been a perception-changing summer for Liverpool?
Yeah, I think it has.
Did you expect it?
No, I thought the Isak thing had legs. That's been talked about at the end of last season, even midway through last season. So I thought they might go out heavy on him and then sprinkle a couple of others. It has been a shift, seismic one from what Klopp talked about. I think that's correct.
Sure.
Now, with that comes expectation.
Yeah.
The only little caveat around that is that not every player brought in was adding to the already champions of England. The players that left were big players. So there was inevitably going to be more business than normal because you've got to replace Trent. You've got to replace Diaz. You know, Jota. 3 really important players, just to name them. So there was going to be lots, but to do it so powerfully and so expensively,
yes,
and with such intention, I don't think anybody envisaged.
No, I mean, Klopp, as you say, played the underdog card.
Played it well.
In reality, were they ever anyone's underdog? This is Liverpool, the legacy club.
I think there was, irrelevant of the spend, there was always an expectation of Liverpool competing at the highest level because they've always done that. And Klopp produced that without spending a lot of money. Deserves great credit for it.
Yeah.
And maybe in years to come, his success will be applauded even more.
I mean, Simon, Carragher is saying, yeah, this is Liverpool. This is his club, Danny's club, but not as we knew it. He says, it will lead to a fundamental shift, not only in how the rest of the Premier League in Europe sees Liverpool, but how supporters perceive their own club. Is that right? Will fans see Liverpool, their club, in a different guise now?
I'm not sure. I mean, look, Liverpool bought 482 million euros worth of players. They sold 220 million worth of players, and I want to touch this lightly. The tragedy of Diego Jota probably bought an insurance payment. So we're talking about somewhere in the region of 180 million euros across 3 transfer windows.
Not a lot, is it? When you look at it like that. I did say this
but you and I both
Monday,
know the headline news yesterday. Isak, 125 million. Off the back of Wirtz, 116
when you
mil.
pare it back and more educated conversation comes into play, it's not huge amounts of money.
No, but they're spending massive fees on individual players.
Because they didn't spend it last year, and the market is what the market is.
No, I think what he's saying, and you're right, but I think what he's saying in the past, Liverpool, apart from the Van Dijk and Alisson money, they tended to go for more diamonds, like diamonds in the rough. Whether it be Mane, whether it be Coutinho for 10 million, whether
what you mean?
for 8 million.
What you mean? They took advantage of other football clubs like Southampton and were able to get them out cheaper.
Yeah,
right. And in this instance, the market slightly changed. I mean, I think it's just a byproduct of the market. People are spending money at high levels now. You're buying players. You know, Chelsea were trying to suggest that Jackson was worth 80 million quid, and they've now got a deal done at best part of 70, haven't they, for a player that's hardly hit the ground running inside the Premier League, besides people's perception of the fact he might be less worse than they thought he was.
Yeah, but Simon, I think Carragher nails it. In the Klopp era, and even going back to when Gerard Houllier and Benitez were in charge, there was a sense that United, Chelsea and later City could buy whoever they liked, and that Liverpool had to be smarter.
Yeah, that's right.
He's right.
That's changed. Yeah,
but that's changed. But that's also because PSR governance has changed.
True.
It's also because Liverpool now are at a stage where their turnover is so significant. Liverpool's turnover in the season before last was 620 million quid. Mm-hmm. So the season just gone, it's probably going to be exceeding 700 million quid. And because the playing field's been levelled, the argument that Jurgen Klopp played was the playing field's not level because we all know what Man City can do is they can just decide to spend more players. Well, there was an element of that's not quite right.
No, that changed, didn't it?
That's not quite right what he said there. But Liverpool have simply consolidated and conflated 2 transfer windows, 2 summer transfer windows into one, and paid some slightly higher fees than people anticipate because they bought some of the best players. Liverpool have always had some of the best players. They just had an opportunity to get them out of other people for cheaper amounts, whether it was getting Kevin Keegan, whether it was getting John Toshak, whether it was getting Kenny Dalglish because they used the Hamburg money they got Keegan sold for to buy Kenny Dalglish for 440 grand from Celtic or whatever the number was. They've always been in a position of being a box seat situation. The difference is now is Liverpool are a real commercial powerhouse because football is becoming a real commercial. You look at the German football and you look at the revenues. One thing I was doing when I was over in Germany was looking at the revenues that these clubs get, and there's so much money from commercial now. It isn't just broadcasters and it isn't just fans spending money. It's also the huge sponsorship deals that are being done. Allianz, with Audi, with the German car manufacturers, that left, right and centre. And you now look at the commercial revenues that are coming into the football clubs in England, and they're beginning to become really significant, and they're going to need it because the broadcasters are going to stop paying them so much money soon. Yeah. But Liverpool are in a situation now where they are Premier League champions. They've compressed if we said Liverpool spent £200 million per season on players for the last 2 seasons, there wouldn't be the same, oh wow, that's significant.
You mean 100 each season?
No, gross spend. Forget the net spend.
And again, I think Jamie gets it right. Liverpool are front and centre of the conversation nowadays when the most coveted and expensive footballers on the planet are on the market.
Because okay, if Man City wanted to buy Isak, there would have been conversation there about Isak going to Man City.
Sure.
Right? They didn't want Isak because they had Haaland, right? So there was only a few places that Isak could have gone to.
Yeah, but people were telling us now that they've got Ekitike, there's no need to go for Isak. That was a conversation, and yet Liverpool did.
But again, they've lost two strikers, one tragically and one because they've sold him.
Yeah.
So they needed to replace them, and they wanted to go for the best players around. They had the means to do it, because the one thing that Fenway don't do is don't spend money that they haven't got.
Well, they've gone for one established and one potential, haven't they?
Mm.
Even though they've spent the fortune on Ekitike in comparison.
Yeah.
To
Will this become a regular thing, Danny? Say Liverpool don't hit the heights we expect them to hit in the coming weeks. Say they're fourth going into the next window. Would you expect them to fork out again big time?
No. I think this is a long-term plan to mould these players into what they want under Slot. You know, they are buying very young, wonderfully gifted players who he will feel he can make better, and rightly so. I don't think this is something we'll see, certainly not in January or even next summer. Now I think Liverpool will be back to the odd one. You know, somewhere down the line, they're going to bring in a centre-half, might be Guehi in January or next summer, but somewhere down the line, they might bring in a midfield. I think you'll go back to seeing, might still be an expensive one and a more finished article than ones in the past. You know, little gems like Wijnaldum, they used to, all these types of players.
Sure.
Maybe they're fishing in a different market, in a pond now, they're fishing in a different pond, but the reality is, to do what they've done this season isn't actually that beneficial for the team. If you bring in 5, 6 players, 7, 5, what is it, 6 they brought in, 5 or 6, 7, 6 or 7 players, then you're making it more difficult for yourself to keep being successful, because that many players integrating into a team in terms of style, building relationships, all those things isn't easy for a coach. It's easy when you get great players. I'm not saying tough, I'm not saying Arne Slot's got tough life.
No.
What I'm saying is it's not as easy to keep getting success when you keep changing the personnel.
But under the likes of Houllier, when you were playing alongside Gerrard and the rest, did you ever feel like underdogs?
Not really.
No. I mean, Liverpool have always been, the legacy club that we know them to be. But now, the perception of Liverpool has changed. And I think Jamie Carragher is right. When you break down the figures, Simon, you're right. But nonetheless, the headlines remain.
The expectation.
Isak 125, Wirtz 116. And the other night, sitting in that seat, and me sitting in this one, we thoroughly expected to add Guehi to that list.
Yeah. So the expectation will change.
Yeah.
From outside as well.
Yeah, but this again, and I'm not negating Jamie's point, but you've still got Man United that are finishing 17th in the league, spending £200 million on players every season. Season on season.
Yeah.
Arsenal, how much they spent? 300 million.
250. Yeah, 300, yeah.
300 million. So the fact that Liverpool have spent 482 euros, 400 million, is a significant amount, but this is not something that's not done elsewhere. I guess what you're saying is it's a sea change in the way Liverpool do business, but the way Liverpool are able to do business is they didn't, in this instance, need to sell the players to get themselves in a position to be able to meet the obligations that they were undertaking. And that some of that will be because they didn't spend any money last summer.
Jamie's calling them the Premier League Galacticos now. Do you see them like that?
No, not quite. Galacticos was really... That was born from Madrid's
Beckham,
going again.
Madrid,
Zidane, the best players in the world altogether.
Right. Show ponies in there.
I think Liverpool have gone for the majority. You could argue Isak's more of a finished article. The rest of them are...
Yeah.
They're on the escalator.
I will put it out there to Liverpool fans listening this lunchtime, but with the spend, and you've heard Simon on it, and he's not wrong in what he said, but with the spend that we have witnessed, Jamie Carragher is saying that will lead to a fundamental shift, not only in how the rest of the Premier League and Europe see Liverpool, but how the fans perceive their club. Do you look at your own club now in a different way after that monumental window the other night? Give us a call, 03717 223344 81089. Wednesday lunchtime, not surprisingly, we're talking about the champions, the Premier League champions, Liverpool, who went out and surprised many in the recent transfer window. Jimmy Carragher, in his Telegraph column, the underdog card which Jurgen Klopp played to such a powerful effect during his tenure has expired. He says, seeing the club spend over 400 million in one transfer window represents a bold new world for those of us emotionally invested in the Merseyside club. And he's not wrong, is he? When you look at it and you break it down, Isak, 125 million. Wirtz, 116. Ekitike, 80. Kerkez, 40. Frimpong, 30. Leone, 26. All adds up to a £450 million spend. And Carragher says that will lead to a fundamental shift, not only in how the rest of the Premier League in Europe sees Liverpool, but how the fans perceive their own club. Is that true? Danny's alongside Simon. Mark is a big Liverpool fan. Mark, in view of what Jamie is saying, and you're through to us and Danny is here, do you see your club differently after this recent huge spend in the window?
I do to an extent. I must admit, I'm massively surprised by what we've done. I didn't expect us to go out and spend that level of money. But I don't see it being like a sort of wholesale change in how I see the club. I'm actually kind of glad that we're showing a bit of ambition and thinking that, this is the only way that we can now move on from winning this title, try and go out and get a Champions League. Because I think the market, not suggesting other people have done anything wrong, but I just think the market is almost kind of demanding in a way that you've kind of got to go out and you've got to, keep up with everybody else, and you've got to go out and buy the best players available. Although I don't think Slot was brought in to say, look, we're going to have ready-made players for you. I do think he was still brought in to improve existing players or anyone that he brings in.
Yeah.
So that's hence why I was so surprised that we've bought this level of player. I'm happy about it because I think it's brilliant. But I do also agree with what Danny said in that I don't think you're going to see this every season by any means. And I also agree fully with what Simon was saying about actually the net spend, because that's the thing we've got to be careful with, is that other clubs still have on net outspent us. So we've done, in my opinion, been very, very clever in how we've done it. And dare I say, Mike Evans and Richard Hughes, I mean, they've done a brilliant job. They're absolutely brilliant at their jobs. And in what they've done, they've served the club really, really well. But yeah, I'm surprised, but I'm actually excited as well, because I want to kind of see us go on now.
Mark, good call. Thank you for that. Carragher says the spend represents a bold new world for those of us emotionally invested in the Merseyside club. Paula, that's you, isn't it? You're a big Liverpool fan. Do you see this representing a bold new world for you as a fan?
I see it as a change. Morning, Danny, Jim,
Morning.
Simon.
Hi, Paula.
I'm enjoying it. Okay, I know some of the more traditional fans are upset seeing what's happening regarding tickets and things like that. But what I've noticed is, even over the last 5 years, is the amount of money that's being spent at the ground, even by, we call them tourists. They turn up with their, expensive handbags and fancy gear, and they go into the shop. And I saw a woman on Sunday with 6 carrier bags full walking out the shop. Now, bearing in mind, a shirt is 120 quid. She must have spent thousands. And I'm going, get in, girl, because that's another player's wages. Looking at how we've expanded the ground in the last few years, up to 60-odd thousand, there's still only 27,000 season tickets. The other tickets are going on hospitality and the money that, it's £4.50 for a pasty now. I'll admit these new ones this season are pretty tasty, but that money is still going into my club, my club that I've loved all my life. So go. If this is the American model, I'm quite happy with it.
What a good call. Paula, thank you for that. I wonder what Scott thinks, big Liverpool fan. Do you perceive your club in a different way then, Scott? Where are you at with this?
Hello, boys. He's okay.
Good, thank you.
Just a quick couple of things. There's 2 things for me within it, Jim. I think even when Danny played with us, we've always had massive expectations of our club. It's just what we've been built upon. So that's never changed, albeit. I think there's 2 things for me, lads, which I think is really critical and key. I think the strategy is phenomenal in some ways. I think when we won at the end of the season, Tom Werner come out with a little statement and said, we're going to go here. Because I think Liverpool have seen a little bit of a niche in the market here and thought, you know what, we've got all our coffers in the bank, we've got an opportunity to really accelerate. Well, there's bits of clouds across Man City, Man United are not doing great. So, in all aspects of commercial and in relation to what the football club is, there's an opportunity. So they've absolutely just gone and grabbed it. In amongst that, you talk about some rough diamonds. We've spent your 30s and 40s and your frimpongs. So these are still not the finished articles. So there's still some work to be done. But I also fall into that bracket there, Jim, where these signings are for the next 4 or 5 years. So don't be surprised, other than January, where I do think we'll get Guehi. Someone like Michael Elise will be the only signing for Liverpool next summer when Salah leaves.
Wow, interesting. Danny's taking all of this in.
Well, no, I agree with him. I think they have been signed, a lot of these players, for long term, and it makes sense because of the profile of them, and some of them do need work. You know, if you look at Kirkes and Frimpong, there's plenty more to come from them, hopefully.
Yeah.
Slot working with even Wirtz, who's a terrific talent. He's going to have to grow and get better. Ekitike, raw, you know. He's just speaking to Julien Laurent about him and the fact that he's got all his potential, but sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't. This is a work in progress. I think he's right. It'll be the odd little addition from now on.
If Scott's still there, just before you leave us, Scott, if this all clicks the way you hope it does under Slot, when do you have it won by?
Do you know what, Jim? The funniest thing is, obviously, I've got family who are Evertonians, and all of that just fell off at the minute. Do you know what I mean? Along with lots of other fans, as you can imagine. I never like getting carried away, Jim, but look, we are now dining at the top table when we want to. We are in a position, mate. I honestly think if we'd have got Guehi, I honestly think it would have been over quite early. I think now, probably, you know, I still expect us to win it. I think we've still got an opportunity with people to gel and stuff. Do I expect us to win it? Yes. Do I expect us to go far and potentially win the Champions League? Absolutely, Jim, because that's just the expectations, especially in the last few years since we've had Klopp, now into Slot. Why would you not? We're Liverpool Football Club. We're one of the biggest institutions, the biggest club in this land, so why would you not have them expectations? That's just where you've got to. That's what you've got to do if you want to be successful, and not rest on your laurels and just go again and go again and go again. As the old saying goes, strike while the iron's hot. And you know what? Keep looking over your shoulders, because you know we'll need to keep looking over our shoulders, because I just think we're now going to accelerate. The signing of Isak, mate, is just off the charts. Absolutely off the charts.
Scott, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I think, Danny, I mean, the expectation when this international break is over and the Premier League gets back, Burnley-Liverpool on Sunday the 14th, it's the hottest ticket in town, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the excitement around that. I'd be surprised to see Isak start that game, because he'll have been away, played a couple of games. He'll have, 2 days with the boys when he gets back? So I think there's very little chance of him starting that. But I think the excitement's there for the forthcoming months, where this team can click and gel when you think of all these brilliant players playing together. Why not be excited? Why not have expectation?
And the following week, the
Everton.
Merseyside Derby, live on talkSPORT. Oof, wow. Can't wait for all of that, but let's not wish our lives away. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy, 12:30 this Wednesday lunchtime. We're live with Selco, where the trade goes.
Man City are struggling to rebuild under Pep Guardiola. They've lost their cloak of invincibility and are now losing out on players to Liverpool and Arsenal in the transfer market. That's the assessment of former Man City player Danny Mills.
There was a time, 3 or 4 years ago, where players would probably go to Manchester City for maybe even less money.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking, well, I'm going to win the Champions League, I'm going to win the league, I'm going to win this, I'm going to win that. Now they're thinking, well, actually, that looks like Liverpool are going to have a bigger chance of winning everything.
Meanwhile, Thomas Tuchel is being encouraged to consider Elliot Anderson for England this week.
I'm not necessarily saying he should start, but he should definitely be in Tuchel's thinking. He was outstanding in the summer, England's best player out at the under-21s.
talkSPORT's Henry Winter says Anderson can definitely play in a deeper midfield role alongside Declan Rice. England versus Andorra in World Cup qualifying is live on talkSPORT this Saturday. Wales play tomorrow and around 1,000 members of the Red Wall are making the 3,000-mile journey to Kazakhstan. Scotland are away to Denmark on Friday night. Now, still no wins for Peterborough this season. They lost 3-1 at home to 10-man Leyton Orient in the Football League trophy. With them sitting bottom of League One, director Barry Fry has tried to pick up talkSPORT's big man pairing of Brazil and McCoist.
I tried to sign you, but I couldn't afford the fee talkSPORT wanted for you. I'm desperate for a goal.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just gone 25 to 1 this Wednesday lunchtime. Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy. We are live on talkSPORT. I just want to throw this in before we go to this item. Some people might find the subject matter here somewhat upsetting. So I warn you now, just in case you do indeed experience that emotion. The conversation around rugby, concussion and CTE has continued in recent days following the death of former New Zealand rugby player Shane Christie. Shane was 39 and he died from suspected suicide. He played for the Crusaders and Highlanders and he represented the Maori All Blacks between 2013 and 2017. He was a top player, but he campaigned for greater awareness of the impact of repeated blows to the head. He retired from the game in 2018. He was just 32, and this gives you an idea of why. He said he suffered from headaches, memory lapses, speech problems, depression, mood swings, symptoms consistent with CTE. And CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, it can only be detected after death. And in recent years, he had admitted he had no idea how many concussions he had suffered, but he said he would donate his brain to research in the hope of making his sport of rugby, safer. But not only that, his death came a year on from the death of his teammate, Billy Guyton, who also took his own life. And Billy was the first professional rugby player to be diagnosed with CTE. His brain was donated by his family to the Human Brain Bank at the Auckland Neurological Foundation for examination. His dad, John Guyton, spoke at the time. Imagine his father saying this of his son. The poor guy would spend hours in a small dark cupboard because he couldn't handle being in the light. Some mornings he'd just sit in the bottom of his shower, crying, trying to muster up the energy to get moving. Now, the chief sports writer at the Sunday Times is David Walsh. And David featured this in his recent column. David, good afternoon to you. This is a tough subject, David, and it's one that I would thoroughly expect a journalist of your caliber to tackle, and you have. How do high contact physical sports navigate safety issues like this, David?
with extreme difficulty, Jim. There's no easy solution, that's for sure. And it's why people talk about concussion and the neurodegenerative kind of conditions that arise maybe from players who've had too many brain injuries during their careers. There's no way of making the game completely safe. That has to be accepted. There is a degree of danger that has to be accepted by those people who are playing. But what we as the public and the game's authorities owe to them is the right of every player to know exactly what the risks are when they decide to commit to being a rugby player, whether community rugby player or professional. But you can't change rugby in a way that makes it completely safe, because what we know about CTE in particular, which is a dreadful kind of condition, neurodegenerative disorder to end up with, is that it can be brought on by what we call subconcussive blows. Somebody gets tackled in the midriff, in the chest area, in the abdominal area, and there's a G-force happens, their head is kind of violently moved, and that can cause a subconcussive hit that the experts believe is one of the big causes of CTE.
Yeah. I mean, other areas. I noticed New Zealand Rugby, David, say it will continue to take steps to reduce the danger of head impacts at all levels of the sport. How they do that's tricky, though. I mean, other areas have been looked at that include lowering the tackle height, reducing contact in training, and using smart mouth guards to monitor impacts. But when these guys play at the highest level, David, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. New Zealand want to beat Australia. England want to beat New Zealand. New Zealand want to beat Ireland. Do you know where I'm going with this? And these guys will be on the receiving end of massive hits in a game because it's what they do.
Yes, it is. But there is, Jim, a growing awareness now that you only have one brain. And your brain is not like your knee, or it's not like your shoulder, it's not like your ankle. If you damage your brain, there's a good chance that it may never recover from that damage. And if you end up at the end of your life with a knee replacement or a hip replacement, that's one thing. If you end up at the end of towards the end of your life with a neurodegenerative condition, that's a bird of a very different color, a much darker color, and it can mean that the last kind of phase of your life is really very difficult and very especially difficult for the people around you. So that's the kind of injury we don't want. But we do have a changing culture. I mean, in the sense that the players are now more aware. We had a situation before the second test of the Lions series in Australia where the Ireland centre, Gary Ringrose, effectively pulled himself out of the team because on the day before the game, he realised that he hadn't fully recovered from a concussion he'd experienced, I think, about 10 or 12 days before. Now, everybody praised Gary Ringrose for doing what everybody thought was a selfless and very, good decision, putting the team and putting his health before playing in a test match. Now, to me, the praise for Gary Ringrose seemed ludicrous. The guy is just protecting his brain. He would need to be very foolish, I would say very stupid, to play a game knowing that he is suffering the effects of a previous concussion. So we shouldn't congratulate players on their bravery for doing that or their selflessness. We should say that should be normal.
Yeah, I'm with you. I see where you're going with it, David. Simon, what's your
David, I was going to ask you, without wanting to be glib, what benefit is wisdom if it doesn't profit the wise to some extent? We've got other sports like boxing, which are baked into their thinking, the nature of getting punishment. We know that there's a recurrent opportunity for people to be injured. The fact that they now know this more specifically and explicitly, what do you anticipate, or what is the game plan for that to morph into something that finds some degree of reducing the risk? As you quite eloquently put forward the case, there's no way of eliminating all the risk. And we don't know how often an injury has to be repeated before it becomes a problem that becomes more degenerative in a later stage. So what is the outcome from shining a light on it that's going to bring forward some solutions to the challenge?
Well, what happens, Simon, is that everybody becomes more aware of it. And when a player goes down with a head injury, the feeling around, you know, both in the stands of the fans who are watching, the referees, the coaching staff of both teams, the feeling should be, if there's a head injury, we're now going to take an ultra cautious approach to this. We're going to get that player off the pitch, and if the player is telling us that he or she is fine, we say, yes, you may be fine, but we have to be sure, and we're removing you from the play. I mean, we'll all remember the Iran goalkeeper against England. Was it at the World Cup 2018 when he had a dreadful head injury
and carried on. Yeah.
Now that kind of stuff, that kind of stuff has to stop. That's the kind of stuff that really can lead to serious problems.
So it's a cultural change of approach to the attitude towards the game rather than a medical situation. Because I'm wondering what the NFL have done, because the NFL addressed concussion protocols and a whole raft of things in their sport. So we're not really talking about a remedy. We're talking about a baked-in set of thinking that now adjusts its attitude towards players and their approach to injuries, and the fact that people won't, I suppose, for want of a better expression, call people weak if they want to come off because they've had a head injury.
Yes, yeah, all that's very important. But in the higher collision sports like rugby, we really have some rules have to change. We have to limit the amount of time that players play. We can't allow them to play, any amount of games, because the more you play, the more at risk you are. We also have to limit the amount of time they can do contact training. I mean, the guidance now is 20 minutes per week of contact. I would say guidance is not worth the damn. We really have to make it mandatory.
Yeah, enforcement.
Yeah, and stuff like that has to happen. We have to all become very conscious that in rugby, far too many players have ended up with neurodegenerative conditions and are suffering from them now. And if anybody cares to kind of spend an hour or two looking through the internet, trolling, looking for rugby players who have committed suicide in the last 10 years, I can tell you now they'll be unpleasantly surprised by the result of that investigation.
Well, one thing we do know, David, that this is a topic to which we will be returning, because it comes amidst 1,100 former players joining the lawsuit against the Rugby Football Union, the Welsh Rugby Union and World Rugby for head injuries allegedly sustained while playing rugby. This isn't going to go away, David, is it?
No, it's absolutely not going to go away, Jim. And I don't see how the authorities were going to come out of this unscathed. I mean, what happened with the NFL is that they were left with a bill to kind of compensate the players of somewhere around $1 billion. Now, rugby doesn't have that kind of money, but there's an insurance company involved that will be liable if it's deemed that rugby didn't do as much as they should have done. And if there is a settlement, what will happen with rugby is basically what happened with the NFL, in that players will have to sign a waiver saying that no matter what happens to them in their careers, they will not have a case against the authorities in the event of brain injury. There will be no other case like we've seen in the NFL. That's not going to happen in the NFL now, because all the NFL players sign up to basically, it's not your responsibility, it's mine. If I'm going to play the game, I accept the risk. And my argument would be, yes, that probably is where rugby is going to end up, and rugby league and Australian rules, lots of sports. But what we've got to do is make sure that the players who are committing to this life know exactly what the risk is.
David, the New Zealand rugby player Shane Christie, suspected suicide, Billy Guyton taking his own life. I notice you're right. I didn't know Billy or Shane. From what I've read, they were good blokes and great rugby players. How could you not feel sadness for how their lives ended? You're absolutely right. David Walsh, Chief Sports Writer at the Sunday Times. Thank you so much for joining us, David.
Thank you.
David Walsh with us. It won't go away, Simon, will it?
No, I was going to suggest that the one thing that they're going to introduce is waivers. because that's the way that they're going to get around it. It'll be interesting to see how the rugby authorities defend themselves against the knowledge, because I would imagine there is an observation that suggests that people know that going into rugby involves being hurt. It's now about the level of information that's been withheld from them, how much of an industrial injury that the sports want to cop to, and what the ramifications of it are.
Yes.
I mean, there is no fix. The only fix is, I suspect, least exposure. But what David has said, and said very well, is that by giving people information, you're giving them a choice. But like we had the conversation with boxers, we sat in this studio and we said to Josh Boazzi, what do you think about this?
Oh,
this
that's
is
right.
Clearly, and Josh said, it's a way for me to make a living and a way for me to get out from underneath.
Exactly. Yeah. We're coming up to 10 to 1 this Wednesday lunchtime. Our biggest competition today is now live. We're giving you the chance to win Oasis tickets plus a whopping 25 grand. 2 lucky winners, not one but 2, will win a pair of Oasis tickets when they are at Wembley on September the 27th. And that's not all. Alongside the tickets, you stand in line to win £25,000. For all the details and how to enter, well, listen up.
18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text the word Oasis to 83338 and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission. Or you can enter for free by calling 0330 880 338. All entries must be received by the 19th of September at 9 a.m. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
Just about at 1 o'clock with you today. Before we go, interesting, contrasting approaches over the last week when it comes to managers and what they choose to say in states of high emotion. Ruben Amorim, after Manchester United went out of the Carabao Cup at the hands of Grimsby, he gave off a few comments that made the headlines the following day. And he says, well, that's me, and I won't change my approach. And it makes us think about, well, we go from Manchester United to England. Thomas Tuchel, by contrast, he's ended up apologising for comments that he made about Jude Bellingham's behaviour when he was talking about Bellingham with England, losing his rag over the odd decision on the field of play, remonstrating with officials. And on that occasion back in March, he called some of Jude's antics repulsive. His mum said that Tuchel's comments were indeed repulsive. Now, that has led Tuchel to try and clear up this situation regards his emotion at the time. And he sought to do that with comments just last week.
I used this word unintentionally, just to make it very clear. I used it unintentionally. There was no message. There was no hidden agenda. I fully understood and understand that it's my responsibility that I created these headlines. I am sorry for the upset, was sorry, and I am sorry for the upset and for the headlines that I created. I'm experienced enough. I should have known better. I should have known better. I should have done better. I thought I have a little bit more credit maybe with you guys that I do all this in my second language. I did it on the morning after a loss with not a lot of sleep. I did it in a live interview and I used the wrong word. Again, it's my responsibility. I used the wrong word. I didn't want to use this word. I used it. I created the upset. It's my responsibility, but not more than that.
Interesting, Danny, isn't it? That word being repulsive. He's apologised for the word that he used. I mean, when you think of Amorim, that's what I've put out there, and I stand by it. This is me. I might be over emotional, but that's the way I am. With Tuchel there, he wanted to make a statement. No, I was wrong here. I was wrong. My word choice was wrong, and I shouldn't really be creating the headlines that I created.
I don't mind that. I don't mind a manager saying sorry or taking back something he said, and no problem at all with that. I also don't mind a manager coming out and blasting me or the team when we've been poor. And he'll have spoke to Bellingham in depth, but they'll be fine. There will be no drama there. But if he reflected on his own behaviour, and you, like any of us, if you reflect on bad behaviour, you've done something wrong, then own it. There's no weakness in that. I don't think any player will watch Tuchel do that and think, "Oh, he's a soft one." He did. It was a poor choice of words that created unnecessary headlines for Bellingham, and he's acknowledged it. I think it shows strength.
And he went into quite a bit of detail there, Simon, didn't he?
I mean, I don't know what fresh hell we're trying to curate here. He is an England manager that gets to speak not very often. So it's not surprising that he's had ample amount of time to reflect upon it, whereas Ruben Amorim spends his entire life in press conferences. So he goes from one press conference to the next.
True.
He also hasn't called a player repulsive. It's also a terminology that was out of context. He didn't mean he was repulsive. That wasn't what he was trying to say. He used a word that was over-emphasising his point, and he's absolutely right to suggest I should be given a little bit of dispensation. This is my second language.
Yeah.
He occupies a position as the England manager. It has a more statesman-like responsibility. So the FA would have given him a nudge and said to him, really? You're the England manager. You know, the manager as well.
Does anyone give you a nudge when you leave here about the words you use?
Yeah, repeatedly.
Do they?
Absolutely. But the fact is that I don't see any controversy or anything about the two styles that are worth particularly debating, because, as I said, one is a guy that speaks once every 3 months. One is a guy that speaks every 24 hours. One is someone that's made a personal observation that could easily be taken out of context and has used contextually the wrong word. If Ruben Amorim had called a player repulsive, I'd expect him to apologise. Unless the player had done something particularly repulsive. And what he was describing was Jude's attitude on the field.
Yeah.
And over emphasis or over exercising some of his frustration.
Spit it out, will you? When you finish the show, carry on.
I know,
We'll be until 1:05.
Apart from long-winded, what other words would you use for Simon this lunchtime, Danny? We only use words that compliment and bring praise. We heap praise on.
He's a kind, generous
being heckled when I was selecting a word.
Yeah,
I was selecting a word that I thought was apt, and I'm being heckled. That's all, folks.
Danny, as always, quite magnificent today.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Long-winded boy, I will see you tomorrow at 10. Bring in one of those polo necks for me. I quite like them. We're coming up to 1.
Neck, not a polo neck.